Welcome to 22 Man Game with Jared and Dame. I'm Jared. That's Dame Un. It is Tuesday, November 4th, 2025, the day of the NFL trade deadline and of 2025 elections. Results pouring in from across the country. Damon, how are you doing on this day of civic duty?
I'm amped, Jared. I'm amped. Thank you so much for asking. Last night, Dom and I didn't have a ton of pod. It was only an hour, so I called it a power hour. And now we are here for what will likely be a 3 hour ordeal, unless we can manage to move efficiently. Because there was a lot of great football games this weekend. There was a lot of trades that are worth talking about. And, a lot of stuff on top of the normal things. And yeah, hopefully people voted and such. That's important. I think even more especially in these local kind of things, and rather than like the kind of national deal once the president comes around.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that in the city of Austin, this was our most consequential election. We didn't have mayor up for grabs or anything like that. Um, However, there's been a lot of pop for like the New York City mayoral election, that kind of stuff. So, definitely just an interesting time to follow the news. And a lot of results pouring in. Not something we need to focus on here, especially considering all of the amazing, both football and sports in general, that took place this last week. Any highlights from your Halloween?
My Halloween, I came home and logged on to Discord and played games and chatted with friends while I was playing games. That was my Halloween. What about you?
Went to a party with Addie's, Addie's friends, Addie's group there, and it was good. It was also the day of Game 6 of the World Series, it was one of the most electric series games I've ever watched. Made me believe in the power of baseball. The Dodgers obviously win in an extra innings nail biting game when Yoshinobu Yamamoto, their pitcher for Game 6, comes back in to close the game for the Dodgers after Will Smith hits one out of the park. And I was rooting for the Blue Jays. Obviously, I was rooting for the Detroit Lions this weekend. I was even rooting for the Commanders. Wins for those teams? No. But was the football, the baseball, was it all exciting? Certainly was. And tons of trade news as well. We want to go over the game super quickly, then hop into our analysis of those trades. But first, we want to hit a few items of news. I'm going to start with this first one just to move through it quickly. The college football playoff first top 25 rankings were announced tonight. Feels worth at least mentioning, as college football, of course, leads into the NFL, and it often is a good predictor for those top picks, typically come from those top schools. Quick glance at the top five: Ohio State number one, Indiana number two, Texas A&M number three, Alabama number four, and Georgia number five. Indiana obviously being the surprise there and helping to solidify the case for quarterback Fernando Mendoza to be at the top of the 2026 NFL draft class at the QB position.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of a discourse around some of the way they do the seedings now that they extended to the 12 team format starting last year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I do like. I mean, four teams was just not enough. There were always several teams that I thought should have had a fair shot, but they ended up at five or six or something like that. But now we have teams like BYU. Like right now, it's BYU, Notre Dame. That would be probably a slaughter in that playoff matchup on Notre Dame's behalf. So I don't know. As a Notre Dame would win. I don't know if I made that clear, but it's weird. It's weird the way they decide. It's like this random people decide like, yeah, this team's number one. I've never liked that kind of way to think about it, but I don't think that'll ever change.
I understand that there has to be some measure of differentiation just because there's so many schools and so many kind of records clumped together. Um, Texas beat Vanderbilt this week, which was unfortunate. That dropped us um, significantly in the standings, and now we are outside of the playoffs looking in at number 16, Texas at number 11 in these rankings. And yeah, I think there should be a more empirical system, something like points for or against and a mathematical calculation of strength of schedule as opposed to what do the people who make this list feel like. It just doesn't seem
Right.
super credible. But I recognize it's going to be an imperfect system. It's great theater. to make it unclear who's going to go where, because then they can roll out. I was gonna tune into the reveal show, and then I didn't have the right streaming, blah blah blah. So, um, not much there, but yeah, it's an interesting, strange process. But anyway, I that's kind of all I wanted to mention. Just get it on the radar. Something we'll probably talk about when it comes playoff time in college. Still a few weeks to go before the winter months, which is when that really ramps up.
Yeah, since we're on the college topic, I do want to mention I didn't put it in the notes the last couple times it's happened, but we did talk about Penn State's coaching fired earlier in the year. Both LSU and Florida have also fired their coach at some point this year. So while we're there, lots of downfall. This is the playoffs, but lots of teams have fallen off this year.
Yeah, it seems like in a lot of, Rich Eisen's been covering a lot of the Brian Kelly stuff. It seems like he does not have the strongest reputation coming out of LSU. So, um, definitely a lot of turnover, some tumult with college football having fundamentally changed. I feel like that might kind of be a good offseason pod topic is look at how the NIL has shifted the
Mm.
structure of college football. Some ways for better, certainly in some ways for worse, but unfortunately, don't have time for that conversation right now, so I'll pass the baton to you. It looks like you've got some trivia for me.
I do have some trivia for you. So this past weekend, the Broncos signed 41-year-old tight end Marcedes Lewis, still kicking around to their practice squad, and they actually activated him for their game against the Texans. So he played. He debuted. He went out on that field, making him the oldest tight end to ever play a game in the NFL. Now, that being said, he did not catch a pass in that game. Who, Jared, are the only two players in NFL history to catch a pass at 41 years old? Will Marcedes Lewis join them sometime this season? I don't know. But so far, there's only two.
Seems pretty plausible if the Broncos are in a blowout win, they'll throw him a screen regardless. But I is this going to
I
be
mean,
something silly where it's like Tom Brady threw a pass and then it batted back into his hands, or is this going to be like pass catchers?
I'll tell you what, one of them is Tom Brady. So nice pull from you there. I don't know if that was the scenario. I think he like went out for a pass, maybe a trick
Oh,
play
they
or
did like
something
the
like that.
Philly special situation
Right.
with Tom. I think I
Um,
remember that actually. Um,
the other one is definitely a pass catcher, well-known pass catcher, played a long time in the NFL.
I'm gonna
One of the
throw
greatest.
I'm gonna throw Larry Fitzgerald out there potentially.
I don't think he played quite that long,
Okay.
long enough.
I guess it can't be a tight end because I was like Antonio Gates was around for a while, but it can't be him. If it's a pass catcher, then it's a wide receiver. I don't know how long like Anquan Bolden hung around. I don't think it was that long though.
No, even more well-known. You're thinking you're pulling too deep out of your bag right now.
Okay, the other one here is it like Jerry Rice?
It's Jerry Rice.
Okay, I
Yeah.
figured because I know he like kicked around with the Seahawks late in his career, that
You're
kind of
right.
thing.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, yeah, I was like, this just seems like it's gonna be, a stupid quarterback. Oh, he catches, but I actually do remember that trick play with Tom. So yeah, I hope he joins it. I have a lot of respect for the fact that Marcedes Lewis has just hung around. Um, he hasn't been a superstar, obviously, for the last probably 5, 6, 8 years of his career, but he's always kind of been there and contributed something. And I think there's a real joy in seeing players like that. So um, good for him to keep
Yeah.
keep battling here.
He had a one catch for 2 yards last year on the Bears. I saw. So
I forgot he went to
he's
the Bears. Yeah.
he's kicking around. Speaking of the Bears, they are next in our what team will CJ Gardner-Johnson play for now? As he signed with them, rejoining former head coach on the Saints, Dennis Allen, when he was there. So another team this season. What is that, four already? We'll see if this one sticks.
Uh, yes, I don't have a ton of faith that it will, unfortunately. Just seems like he's not been able to gel. I'd say the only thing that helps is that the Bears have had a lot of secondary injuries, so he may actually see the field for them this year. And if that starting pathway goes away like it did with the Ravens, then I would be pessimistic about him remaining part of that team long term. But um, still a player with talent, so it will be interesting to track how the remainder of his season goes. Last bit of news that is not one of the 8,261 trades that took place last week. The Detroit Lions and defensive end Aidan Hutchinson have agreed to a 4-year, $180 million extension in total money that does not top Micah Parsons. However, the guarantees are the most for a non-quarterback ever. I want to say that's 141 million in
Mm.
guaranteed money for Hutchinson. Um, he's looked great coming off of injury. I think he has the profile of a true number one pass rusher. He keeps adding to his game, and he's such a huge culture fit for us. I love what Hutch offers. So I'm really happy about this signing. I think for what he could have gotten, um, this is good. And I also think it's tacked on to the 5th year option as well. This is extending off of that as opposed to replacing that. So I feel good about that as well. Um, really talented guy, total like high character in the locker room kind of guy. So all love to him and just excited to see how he continues to mature as a player. And I hope he eventually gets kind of the recognition that he's already been getting, but I really think he is one of the best. So really excited to see where he goes.
Yeah, obviously a top pass rusher in the league, having a great season, looking strong with that comeback player of the year. We'll see that we voted on in the preseason. Only thing I'll take away from this, in addition to what you've already said, I was looking at the books for the old Detroit Lions after this was signed. Got a lot of players making a lot of money starting pretty soon here. Monra, which his contract is like half of this contract, which is kind of silly to me. That's just a position thing. Um, JMO, we just extended. Jared Goff's contract is huge because he's a quarterback. Kirby Joseph, obviously making a big contract now. Just lots of contracts around the Lions the last couple of years. So hopefully we can keep the gang together. And if not, I imagine that means that at some point we'll have to make a sacrifice in kind of this competitive era that we're in.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I don't want to jump too far into the trade situation, but I was reading a lot about the Lions not making a trade today, spoilers, and all the pessimism from fans on Twitter. I don't know why I chose to absorb this energy, but it just kept making me feel so like, oh my gosh, we didn't make a trade, our team is doomed, whatever. And then I kind of have to step back and go, well, we're paying a lot of really good players, a lot of money, and part of me thinks that the real not to, I think we can compete every year. I think we're still competitive. I don't think not making a trade takes us out of it. I kind of had to talk myself off the ledge there, but the way we kind of get ahead of our contracts, I think keeps us perpetually slightly ahead of the curve financially in a way that a team like Dallas, not saying this to be critical, but often ends up signing their guys at the last minute, have to pay them top of market rates, that kind of thing. I think the Lions do a good job of getting ahead of that, and that always gives us value to add some guys at the bottom of the roster, though I don't think we're ever going to be a team that's going to be able to stack from top to bottom through anything other than the draft. So uh, I love our core. Obviously, rooting for a few more of our guys to be re-signed in the near future here. Jahmyr Gibbs, especially. Um, but yeah, no, it's a great time to be a Lions fan when you have players who are worth this money almost uncontroversially, and it's super exciting. But I want to give the floor to our wheel games. One of them was one of the most touted matchups of the week, and one of them was one of the least exciting games of the week. Let's start with yours.
Okay. I think you're maybe referring to mine as one of the highly touted matchups of the week. That's going to be Bills 28 at home against the Chiefs 21. They take victory over the Chiefs here. Something they've been able to do in the regular season, but not in the postseason, is often kind of the narrative shared with these two teams. This was a fun one to watch in that 3 p.m. slate. All of the kind of other important noon games had happened. The game that you also covered was in this time, not as exciting. So I felt like I wasn't really missing out much by really paying attention to this one. And I had the Chiefs as my wheel team. First thing I'll say, because it's the Chiefs, and when I think of the Chiefs, this is one of the things I think of. Harrison Butker is a bad person. I don't like him. So I'll say that and move on.
Well
If
said.
you know, you know. If you don't know, you can look it up probably. Um, one of the really only true road tests for the Chiefs this season. When we were talking about their schedule, predicting their records in preseason, a lot of their tough matchups, the Lions, for example, amongst other teams, were at home in Arrowhead. One of the toughest places to play. This was on the road at Bills, and the Bills kind of just executed really well in this game. I think for me, what it looked like is Sean McDermott, coach of the Bills, Josh Allen, of course, quarterback. They've done this battle enough. They get Steve Spagnuolo and his bag of tricks on defense. Like they understand probably what they're going to be presented with, and it was really a brute force showing by the Bills. James Cook out of the backfield, 27 carries, averaged 4.2 a tote for a total of 114. So he was kind of having his way with them. In that regard, Josh Allen very efficient, 23 of 26. So making the smart play, the right play. He also had a couple of runs himself, including 2 touchdowns in this game on the ground. And then, yeah, spreading the ball around as they often do, but Dalton Kincaid was kind of the biggest recipient of the big plays for them. And then on the other end, I think the Chiefs offense kind of had some malaise, some fatigue, of course, without Isaiah Pacheco in this. He is out with an injury, so it's like Kareem Hunt, who is like very not like he's very slow, doesn't have a lot of juice left in the tank and a little bit of Brashard Smith in this game. Crazy what happened in this game when I was watching it. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back in the Chiefs. No idea that was a thing.
Oh, okay.
He got a
Cool.
carry in this game, and I was like, "What? That guy is still in the NFL? And he's back on the Chiefs? This is crazy." Um, yes, so random. Number like 44 or some horrible, ungodly number too. It was like, oh, geez.
Ugh.
That was fun. And then the receiving threats were fine. Like, Rashid Rice, he didn't have a ton through the air. They've been kind of utilizing him as a rusher too, kind of like Debo Samuel-esque a couple of years ago on the 49ers. Xavier Worthy hasn't looked great, especially since Rice came back. Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. Maxwell Hairston, Bill's corner, first round pick. This is one of his first games, if not his first game of the season. He was injured for a while. Picked off Patrick Mahomes. That's a big achievement, right? That's going to go in his kind of memory bag, I'm sure. But yeah, ultimately, it felt like the Bills came into this game prepared, kind of ready to go against this Chiefs team. And a lot of their drives were very methodical, running down the field. A couple of big plays, but mostly it was just, hey, we have a game plan, we're going to execute it. And the Chiefs couldn't really do anything about it. It really just seemed like we're a little more talented than them. And Patrick Mahomes couldn't Mahomes his way out of the whole thing.
Yeah, just when we thought the Chiefs might be rounding into one of those dominant teams we've been waiting to see, they dropped this game to the Bills. And, I had this game on. I was kind of trying to knock some things out as it was on the screen. I had a social event in the evening, so I couldn't sit and watch it. I had to get ready. And it was one of those things where there have been Bills Chiefs games where the offenses are just one-upping each other with dazzling, amazing play, and it's like the Chiefs or the Bills pull out the last magic trick. Just didn't feel that way. Chiefs were not in rhythm. Chiefs weren't breaking the Bills with great offense. Um, and so yeah, Bills win maybe a little bit more of a slog than these teams are normally used to. And I mean, what do you think about what you saw from the Chiefs? Do you feel like this is kind of a revealing moment for them as a team, or do you think this is just the Bills being ready to handle the Chiefs specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, despite being a one-score game, it didn't really feel like a one-score game. It felt like the Bills were in control most of the way, and the Chiefs kind of made it close at the end. But um, yeah, it felt like something I felt in Chiefs years of the past, specifically like the year they went to the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers and lost pretty badly. Um, it feels like a team that's kind of incomplete, that kind of has holes here and there, and they just try to tape it together until the wheels fall off. And we'll see how long that tape holds this season. But I think we have kind of a crack in the hull right now for this team.
Yeah, that feels consistent with I think a lot of the top teams in the league have some Achilles heel that's being exposed and um okay. I mean, I think that's totally fair. Any last comments on this game before we hop over to my equally as touted matchup?
Um, my last comment is that I still have Chiefs fatigue, and I didn't enjoy watching the game, even though they lost.
Yeah, I believe that's how I felt with it on in the background. I was like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to be invested in the Bills Chiefs matchup, but ugh. I
Tell
it's
me about
just
your
like
equally exciting contest.
yes,
Whatever you're
sorry.
done making this last comment. Sorry, go.
No, I don't want to rant about Kelsey and Mahomes for 4 minutes. So I'll jump over to Rams 34, Saints 10. And I had the Rams for this game. I had listened to a recap of Sunday, but I had kind of forgotten the score. I thought it was going to be closer to like 20-10. So when I saw the Rams slowly putting up 34, I was like, oh, gotcha. Um, from the Saints' point of view, which is where I'll start, this was the first start for Tyler Shuck. He wasn't a huge problem. He just also wasn't a solution. This was a lot of three and outs, a lot of stagnance. Taysom Hill opened it up in the second quarter, and they were able to bring it within 10, right, in going into halftime with a late kind of 2 minute drive. Shuck led them well. Um, Going into the third quarter, though, the Rams had just a long scoring drive that took any hope out of the Saints. I think going down 17 with like 9 minutes left in the third or something. But I mean, you just let them march for almost half the quarter, or maybe more than half, uninhibited, and that just kind of took the wind out of the Saints' sails. They had some disruptive defensive play early, especially from Chase Young, who got a sack and then followed it with an offside. So. Uh, they've got defensive backs in New Orleans, right? A few players from the Saints traded today, so I'll maybe save some thoughts on them for later. But the Rams, man, they can beat you in so many ways, right? This was a narrative coming out of their game against Jacksonville in London was like the 9 or 10 pass catchers that Stafford threw passes to in that game, and this was um, they highlighted on the broadcast. I actually thought a rare W for the Vilma broadcast. I thought he was actually pretty solid, him and Kenny Albert. But um, they were doing a ton of 13 personnel, so one wide receiver, three tight ends, and those tight ends were making plays. They were gashing the Saints zone. They had some really nice plays. Devontae Adams would do this like just super quick breaking slant where he just like took one step, cut inside. Stafford threw it to him right at the cut, and that was past the goal line touchdown for like 2 yards. And then I think they ran a similar play on a might have been a third down. I think it was like a gotta have it play. Um, but then Blake Corum and Kyron Williams were both dominant and explosive on the ground. I understand this is a bad opponent, but they just really have a lot of diversity on offense. Some defensive disruption. I wouldn't say they were like. I mean, they blew up a number of the Saints' plays, but I think part of the problem was the Saints' offense as much as it was the Rams' defense in certain situations. Right side of the Saints' line was blown up multiple times, and I believe that's where they had Byron Young lined up. But yeah, the Rams offensively look really complete right now. Stafford is locked in. I want to say he has the record for most touchdowns thrown by a Rams QB in a two-game stretch. Obviously, Kurt Warner being a Rams quarterback, that means something, right? Just a really strong team performance altogether. The one bugaboo for this team, and I will mention, Puka Nacua exited with a rib injury in the fourth. They're evaluating his ribs right now. Unclear what the timetable is for that. He had his helmet back on and was on the sideline in the fourth quarter. So part of me wonders if it wasn't so terrible, at least in the moment, that if they were suddenly in a jam, he wouldn't be able to go out there. But the game was well in hand by the fourth. So all of this to say, the big question I have about the Rams right now is their kicking game. They missed a field goal and are actually now I was watching it, but it's eluding me. I know that they missed. I want to say field goal and an extra point, and one of them may have been blocked or tipped, but they left at least 3 points on the board from the kicking position, if not four. Um, I'm concerned in that respect because you want a kicker, and I think it's important to establish also that kickers aren't just important because of the points that they score, but because how they affect the offensive game plan. How close do you need to get before you attempt that field goal? Do you need to go for more fourth downs because you don't trust your kicking game? When you have a strong kicker, you can operate with more strategic diversity because you can trust them to make long kicks. I can't imagine the Rams feel that way right now. I was reading some post game comments from McVay talking about how they were going to evaluate the special teams process. That's their big Achilles heel right now. But complete performance from the Rams, uninspiring performance from the Saints. I think they have some pieces they didn't have at this game. Any thoughts on Rams Saints?
Yeah, I was looking at the post game as well, and you mentioned the kicking issues. Joshua Carty, their kicker, NFL high 8 missed kicks so far this season. It looks like for the misses in this game specifically, the holder had the laces facing towards him on one of them. That's a big no-no. Um, and then on the other one, it was nearly blocked, so maybe it messed him up. So both of them have like relative reasons, but obviously they went like way wide left and right. That's a big deal. But
I think the one they kicked right, they were talking about in the broadcast how he may have been, and I could be mixing this up with another game because I had another game with a missed field goal I was watching, but he was kicking kind of away from the block. Like if he had
mm,
attempted the kick as normal, his hand was already up at his grill, so he may have shot that one out of the way to avoid a blocked kick. The first one
right.
was just a massive whiff to the left, though. Like,
Yeah.
the fans were like catching the ball. It was not even close. So,
Yeah, I was pretty dialed into Chiefs Bills, and then also I forgot to mention this when I was talking about Chiefs Bills. At the end of Chiefs Bills, I had to switch over to Jaguars Raiders because it was pertinent to my fantasy results as the game went into overtime. And I'll talk about that when we get there. But yeah, I didn't have this one on because I knew you were going to watch it, and I was not supremely interested in the Saints and Tyler Shuck against a team that I think has showed time and time again that they are, going to make they're going to be a tough NFC out, I'll say at the very least.
for sure. Last thing I'll say, Shuck did have an injury or injury. Wow, interception in this game. That pick came late in the game, and it was kind of like to me, you kind of just want to sling it. You kind of need to see if you can make something happen. I don't really think it was like, oh man, the game was in the balance, and then he threw a pick that turned the momentum. Alvin Kamara had a fumble that did kind of cost the Saints dearly. It was on their own side of the field, and that gave the Rams short field to go score. But I think the just if you're seeing the stat sheet, oh, he barely had any yards, and he had that pick. I don't hold the pick against him too much, just in game scenario at that point. If you're not
Got
throwing
to
a
try something.
touchdown every other play, right, you're probably losing anyway. So might as well sling it. That's all I got for my wheel game. That has been our coverage of the Chiefs and Rams via the wheel. We're now going to spin into our pop and stop games of the week, the games that popped and the games we kind of wished would just stop. Starting with the
Pop and
pop game.
stop. Pop
Pop.
and stop. Pop and stop.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. I should get a balloon every time we do it and put it really close to the mic and then just pop it.
There you
Um,
go. That's a,
and then
that's a
it'll
great
just
one.
like, ton of
As
feedback.
I'll have an air horn on my end. It'll be great.
Yeah. So I'll have you
Lots of
start us
pop.
off here. You might know more about this first game that popped. Niners 34 at Giants 24.
Despite all the pop that happened, I will try to limit the amount of comments I make. Otherwise,
For
this will
sure.
be the longest podcast ever. But yeah, 49ers a 10-point victory over the Giants. Again, I put it in the pop section when I was putting the doc together. More of the results of the game and kind of the narratives for both teams rather than the actual game itself because it never seemed super close. Uh, I'll mention real quick 49ers defensive lineman Quinnen Williams tore his ACL and is going to be out for the season. Yet another defensive injury for the 49ers, obviously a theme. A couple things I want to mention here. Jackson Dart. The guy has an offensive weapon unto himself. He was struggling heavily in the first half. Of course, no more Scattaboo. A kind of split backfield between Tyrone Tracy Jr. and Devin Singletary. So no guy there kind of standing out as the alpha option. And then Malik Neighbors injured earlier in the season. We're left with the likes of Wandale Robinson and Darius Slayton and Theo Johnson at the tight end position. And then just random guys. But I say Jackson Dart doing it himself because he's just putting passes in places that only his guys can catch. He is using his legs a lot. Had a scrambling touchdown in this game. It was very nice where he was eluding defenders and stuff. Really kind of willing the Giants offense towards the 24 points they ended up scoring in this game, albeit the rough start that I mentioned earlier. The 49ers, on the other hand, it does not matter how many of their players are on the bench, on the sideline, in the locker room, in the medical tent. They continue to churn on and on and on. Another solid performance from Mac Jones filling in for the injured Brock Purdy. Another solid performance from Christian McCaffrey, who I drafted number one last year, and then he was injured the entire year, and I avoided him like the plague this year, and now he's making me regret it immensely. Um, George Kittle's still there, happy for that. Ricky Pearsall has been on my fantasy bench for 8 consecutive weeks, it feels like. I have no idea what's happening with him and when he's going to come back. But yeah, aside from that, it's just kind of piecing together wins with good coaching and good game plan and good execution. And I just am amazed again at another win from this team because they keep having guys go down. I think this Giants team has showed over the last several weeks that they are a formidable opponent, and they just kind of came in and took care of business in New York once again for this 49ers squad.
Yeah. I had seen some. I was kind of watching some post game sort of review content. That's Good Sports. They're pretty funny over there. But they were talking about McCaffrey putting the team on his back. Do you feel like if McCaffrey misses any time, the Niners high wire act will crumble? Do you think McCaffrey's the key to keeping them contending with all these injuries?
See, I want to say yes, obviously, but like I feel like I would have said yes if you asked me that about Fred Warner, or if you
Right.
asked me that about some of the other guys that have gone out for them this year. But yeah, when you have a running back who is one of the most talented of all time when it come in terms of catching passes out of the backfield, that obviously helps because when nothing on the offense is working, we can check it down to the halfback and let him make a play in the open field. And when that player is Christian McCaffrey, the results are going to be better often than not. So. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Isaac Garendo, Brian Robinson Jr. had a touchdown in this game. Those guys are obviously not open field threats like Christian McCaffrey, so that would definitely change the dynamicism of their offense. There was a play, one of his touchdowns, where he just kind of snuck out of the backfield wide open. Because I guess the way he kind of pathed, they didn't really see it coming and waltzed into the end zone for free. So I don't see how they could really translate that to other players on their roster. So yeah, I think it would fall apart, but I don't know. I've said that about 8 times this season. I'm ready to call off this team, and they prove me wrong every week.
Yeah, I don't think the Niners will be out of it until they're out of it just because of their makeup and character. And I think if this team is wins its division, I think Kyle Shanahan for Coach of the Year is going to be a pretty convincing case. Um, let's move on because there's just a lot of games to pop here. Chargers 27 at Titans 20. Wasn't watching this one super closely, but big news out of this game is Chargers offensive tackle Joe Alt being carted off with a high ankle sprain and getting season-ending surgery, which means both of their offensive tackles they entered the season with will now be out for the remainder of the season for the Chargers in one of the most banged up offensive lines in the league by far. So, a pretty significant loss for them. What is I didn't see this story about Diane Henley, so
Yeah, Chargers linebacker Dion Haney, not sure.
I think it's
Um,
actually Henley, I thought, but
I could have absolutely typed the name
it is
wrong, and if
Henley.
that's
Yep, Diane
that,
Henley. Yeah.
I'm an idiot. Don't listen to me. It's Henley. Jared's a genius. He suited up, played this game as he normally does. The previous day on Saturday, he learned that his brother Jabari was shot and killed. So I just learned that he learned that and then still played this football game. So obviously, thoughts out to him. Incredible that he suited up. I know I would not have. I don't know obviously what the rationale is there, but obviously a tough thing to kind of think about when you're playing a silly game of football.
Yeah, I think on some level it's like why are we playing, why are you playing football? Like all of this matters, but I think I imagine for a lot of players that playing the game, one, is probably one of the times you feel most connected to other people in your life, right? You have a team that has your back and you have their back. And in such a difficult moment, I could totally understand wanting to be in that space of community. And then also, for a lot of these players, I imagine that making it to the NFL and contributing in the NFL is such an expression of all the work and effort that the folks in their lives put in to help them get to that point. And so, I don't want to speak for Henley, but I'm sure there were plenty of emotions and happy that he was able to get a win, putting so much of himself on the line after such a difficult story. So definitely we'll be thinking about Henley and pivoting from that just to look at the bigger picture. As some of the AFC contenders start to kind of rise from their slumber, it's important for the Chargers to pick up every win they can. Titans are a beatable team, so important for them in that respect. But definitely a game with a bit of a different meaning with that news.
And I did put this in the pop section also because the Titans were winning this game after the first quarter. They started off with a defensive touchdown, I believe,
Oh wow.
that kind of put them on top here, and then ultimately they kind of came back to earth. Yeah, pick six from Justin Herbert. That was a touchdown. So.
Yeah.
Oh, and they had a punt return touchdown. So neither of them were offensive touchdowns in the first quarter, but they had a lead and it was a little scary there for a little bit, and then their offense, of course, didn't really know how to operate down the stretch.
Yeah. A difficult thing there. I have a Cam Ward note, but I'm going to save it for the trade section because it's more related to that. I'm going to move on to our next game, painfully. Vikings 27 at Lions 24. I had looked past the Vikings as an opponent. I felt pretty comfortable we could handle JJ's Vikings, but the defense was rocking. Our run game went nowhere. Our offense was out of sorts. I don't necessarily lay this game at the feet of the defense. Um, a late touchdown by Jameson Williams gave us a chance, but we couldn't stop them on a 3-and-out to get the ball back. And so obviously we fall by 3 in this game. The Lions do. And, the offensive line already looking a little compromised in terms of play. Taylor Decker banged up again. Our left tackle, Penei Sewell, our right tackle, has some eye trouble and then has to leave the
Yeah,
game for part of it and banged up. And our left guard, Christian Mahogany, second year guy, likely out until late December. I was kind of hoping maybe we called the Titans and tried to trade for Kevin Zeitler, who was our right guard last year, to plug in that deficiency. Um, maybe the Titans just kind of weren't selling at a price that felt reasonable. And if so, so be it. Or maybe they'd moved on from Zeitler for a reason and all such things in that nature. But this was a disappointing one from Detroit for sure after such an electric win over Tampa Bay. I think, with all respect to our current nickel, Arthur Millette, I think our defense will feel much more secure when we get DJ Reed back, which is expected to happen this week. And we can slide Amik Robertson back inside where he can handle some of those routes there. Terran Arnold returned in this game, but then he left, came back. He got his first pick, big for his career, but
that pick was
um,
crazy.
yeah, he kind of wrestled it away from the guy. This game and another result we'll get to shortly, responsible for a super bunched up NFC North right now. Packers, I want to say, are 5-2-1, 4-3-1. I'm totally brain farting. I'm sorry, but Vikings at 4-4, Lions at
Five,
five
two,
and
and one.
three. Yeah, 5-2-1. That's what I thought. Packers at 5-2-1, Lions and Bears both at 5-3, Vikings now 4-4. Obviously, both Packers and Vikings with a divisional win over the Lions. Definitely super bunched up division now. This keeps the Vikings season alive and gives them some hope. It's a division matchup, so I still want to see how the Vikings do in the coming weeks to kind of confirm that this wasn't just because of the opponent. Um, but either way, disappointing loss for the Lions.
For sure. Yeah, I don't have too much else to add. I think you mentioned kind of everything. You were watching this game a little more closely than I. Everything I noticed in terms of, why the Lions ultimately lose this game. I guess the only note I'll add, JJ McCarthy looked pretty good first game back, after his second game where he went out and looked pretty bad, and then he was also injured. I thought he would have had a rockier comeback. Not to say he had this perfect game, but 27 points is not nothing. And kind of like I mentioned with Jackson Dart earlier, doing a lot with his legs as well. So that dual threat quarterback, hard to handle. So a little surprising for me.
It does feel important to mention that I think their running game with Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason was probably the bigger driver of their offense. JJ
Hmm.
did what he had to do, but I don't feel like he wasn't like, Matthew Stafford where he's balling out and like controlling the game
For
or anything.
sure.
Um,
Aaron
but
Jones
I
did
mean,
leave.
uh, good for them to get the win either way. And, JJ McCarthy posted on Instagram. I saw this because I consume all Lions drivel. Like, kneecaps are still intact. And that made me feel a
Oh,
little bitter.
that's
And
cringe.
I
That's
need to
cringe.
talk about it. I need to talk about how it made me feel because I don't like when the Lions lose. Um, and I won't overlook any other team the rest of this year. It was a learning lesson for me, hopefully a learning lesson for Detroit. I think our offensive um, cohesion hasn't quite been there this year, and I think we need to figure that out before the playoffs. And hopefully this helps put us on the path toward that. Any other thoughts, or can we move on to this iconic Super Bowl rematch here?
On from the pain and on to the Patriots 24 at Falcons 23, a pretty tightly contested contest in which the Patriots continue to look like the real deal. So every time this happens, I have to give Jared credit because Jared thought the Patriots were going to be really good in the preseason, and I had the Patriots winning 5 games. They already won 7 games, so I look stupid. Um, But yeah, it was a fun game. The Falcons made it interesting down the stretch. Patriots had a 10-point lead going into the fourth. Falcons couldn't quite get all the way back. And yeah, it was an interesting one. I was hoping to see a little more out of Travion Henderson. We both have him on a fantasy roster, and Ramondre Stevenson was out this week, but he still just kind of looks like they're not really gonna give him what he needs in order to kind of succeed. Maybe they just think he's not ready. Maybe it's something to do with kind of his frame and size, which is a concern I mentioned way, way back when we talked about. I think you had him as offensive rookie of the year, and I was like, my one concern is this. Um, I don't know. And other things I'll note for this game when I caught it, what I watched of it. Pop Douglas, legend Pop Douglas, we've mentioned several times in this pod,
Mhm.
had this insane play where he like caught a pass. I don't think he had a touchdown. I don't think it was a touchdown catch. I think it was a separate catch where he caught this pass and then eluded like 7 Falcon defenders on route to gain several yards. It was a lot of fun to watch. And then I literally watched Drake London catch 3 touchdown passes in this game, all like on somebody's head falling into the end zone. And I was just like, okay, I guess you can just do that with that guy. Interesting. So, a fun game for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that about Travion because obviously with him on my fantasy team, and I don't know if you've cut him from your fantasy team, but I've held on
Not
to
only
him
did I
and
not cut him, I started him because my RB room in that league is quite scary right now.
yeah, I actually may have started him this week as well. I can't remember. Anyway, either way. Um, I had seen that he put up a decent amount of points, and I now looking at where those points came from, seems like an average day, right? And this was without Ramondre Stevenson, so I was like, oh, Travion, yeah, Travion, I'm Travion pilled. Fine, 4 catches, 32 yards, 14 carries, 55 yards.
Backup got the
Productive
goal
day.
line goal line carry touchdown. So
Um, Yeah, I mean, I think he helped me out in fantasy for sure. We'll talk about that with Jaguars, Raiders, but good for the Patriots to keep winning. The Falcons are sitting at 3-5, and I don't think their season's over per se. I am a little bit pessimistic about their ability to turn it around in a high quality NFC. When you're right in that Cowboys bracket, the Cowboys were aggressive at the trade deadline today. Falcons didn't make any improvements. They're wishy-washy. Good on them to battle, but this may have been one the Falcons needed to steal if they wanted to stay uh, competitive record-wise come December. So
still
be
still one
watching
of the
that.
most confusing teams in the league. Every week I'm
No,
so confused.
no doubt, no doubt. They are a strange out, especially. I mean, they just got creamed by the Dolphins, who are featured in one of our stop games of the week. This was a surprising result for me. I imagine for you as well. The
Yeah.
Colts only one loss heading into this week, but Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers make it two with a 27-20 victory over the Colts. And I'd heard, unless I'm mistaken, that the Colts had 6 turnovers.
There was at least three Daniel Jones interceptions that I can remember when I was watching this game. They were not pretty. Yep, he had three picks. What else did they do here?
I think there was a
Uh,
fumble or three.
There were three fumbles lost. Yeah, so six turnovers. You are absolutely right. Steelers defense showing up in ways they haven't in some of their other big matchups this year. Or was it the fact that Daniel Jones threw 50 passes? That could be a factor in three picks as well. That's a lot of passes to throw. But yeah, guys like TJ Watt and those guys going to get in the backfield and obviously cause some disruption, cause some fumbles, etc. Makes sense. This is a result that saddens me, not because I'm a Colts fan per se, but I do like the story of the season. Obviously, has been the Colts, and they've been a lot of fun. And I'm just such a Steelers hater that I don't want them to succeed.
Um, I I just had a dark vision of
Oh no.
a wild card matchup where the Steelers go to Kansas City that we are forced to talk about. That is my dark vision.
Uh, hey, at
And
least one of them has to lose, so
that's true. That's true. In the
that's a good
first
point about
tie in playoff history, the
that.
league has voted to remove this other team that actually won its game and advance them both. That would be a nightmare. No.
I
Um,
was convinced, like, I'm sorry, here's what I'll say. I'll say that I came into this matchup thinking the Colts are real and the Steelers are not. And this outcome maybe tells a different story, which is really unfortunate because I did want it to do that.
I'm actually going to say this. I think this is a mirage. Um, I
I
think
do think that, yes.
even if it says the Colts have some questions, right? Like maybe they ripped the varnish off Daniel Jones, maybe the blueprint's out there on Daniel Jones. I don't think this makes the Steelers a good team. Looking earlier in the season, the Jaguars were an incredibly turnover prone defense, and that fueled an unlikely start where they appeared to be a potential AFC contender. And I think turnovers are part of a great defense, but turnovers alone do not a great defense make because they are such a come and go stat.
Hmm.
Um, Great for them to pull out the win. Great to get those six turnovers. That's awesome. I want you to beat the Colts with two turnovers and solid defensive play, and then I'll believe in you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
six turnovers and only winning by seven is like, okay. I feel like
yeah,
this should have been a blowout.
it's an aberration, and watching Steelers Packers having eyes on that game, I don't think Rodgers was bad by any means. I think their offense has some pop for sure, but I'm not ready to buy into the Steelers. I'm just a little bit on Colts watch in terms of whether Daniel Jones can kind of keep it up.
This
Speaking of
was really
keeping it
the
up,
football gods coming back and giving the Colts the loss they deserved against the Broncos for that leverage penalty.
yes, this is the football gods refusing us a clear number one team in any conference.
Yeah.
Uh, Here's a game I actually I took the time today to watch Saints Rams, and then I also watched the condensed broadcast, which by the way, condensed broadcast is the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Broncos 18 at Texans 15. You wrote here that CJ Stroud exited late. He exited in the second quarter with his concussion, if I am recalling
Why did
correctly.
I think it was later?
Maybe it was like late second quarter, and then the
Yeah.
second got. But either way, I mean, he exited
Maybe
early in
yeah,
this
it might have
game.
been late in whatever the quarter was. And I
Yeah.
was like, ah, it's late in the game.
No, I
Anyways,
mean it was it was midnight for the Texans regardless. Um, this game really struck me. The Texans got down to like the 1 yard line and couldn't convert. Got it to 4th and 1. False start, 4th and 6.
hmm
Have to settle for the field goal. They just kept settling for. They might have actually. They missed a field goal. And it might have been that one. But then even when Davis Mills had to come in, they were driving. They got down to the red zone. Then that drive fell apart. They have to settle for a field goal. So this 15 is not 7 point touchdown, 8 point touchdown. This is just five field goals and a waste of solid field position, a waste of drives that were pushing into Broncos territory in the first half. And then the offense just kind of fell apart in the second half there. And losing Stroud that early definitely is going to kill your offense somewhat. But if you're within 5 yards of the end zone, you don't get in the end zone, that raises real questions for me. And that happened once, and I think they got down to the six, and then penalties and Davis Millsing, you know, tore the walls down. So Broncos just kind of hung around. They put up a late touchdown to RJ Harvey, kind of a gutsy call, or a flashy one at the very least. Could get the 2 point conversion, and then they just kept trading kind of three and outs in the fourth quarter until the Broncos finally kicked that field goal to win the game at the buzzer. But man, Texans, you gotta convert down in the red zone. If they had turned one of those plays into a touchdown, maybe this game is 1918 or 1915 because the Broncos are forced to keep taking shots at the end zone at the end of the game.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do think the Texans had many, many chances in this game to execute, even with their backup QB. Run game is sus still. Broncos defense pretty good. Broncos offense, I know the Texans defense is really good, but this feels like with their lackluster offensive performance that another team that I think you should probably beat this team by more than three, especially considering they're 7-2. I feel like they should be a little more convincing. But Texans, I think their defense is so good and so criminally underrated this season because their offense is so bad.
Yeah. They were balling out. Stingley did get beat on I believe a Cortland Sutton touchdown where he just kind of got behind him and they were speculating on broadcast. Did he think he had a safety back there? Either way, yeah, I mean the Texans defense is popping. I mean this was two defenses that were great defenses, right? To be fair to the Texans in that respect, but um I just think when you put yourself in a position to score a touchdown and you don't do it and you get into that position twice when you're within the 10 and it falls apart, that's a recipe to lose. And that missed field goal as well ends up being man, maybe it wasn't the Texans who missed a field goal. It might have been actually been the other game I watched. I apologize. Either way, limited to only those five field goals. Two of them by Kymir Fairbairn were legitimately like barely like within 5 inches of the post. Like they were some of the closest field goals I've ever seen made that weren't bouncing off the upright. So kind of crazy there, but not nearly as crazy as this next game, which was certifiably off the wall. Damon, take us through Bears Bengals.
Absolutely insane. So the final score, I'll tell you, Bears 47 at Bengals 42. Wow, a crazy shootout that was close all the way until the end. Sort of, but also not really, because for a long time in this game, it seemed like the Bears had it handled and put away, and then like the last 2 minutes became an absolute absurd affair of events in which the Bengals actually had the lead until 15 seconds left in this game, when the Bears scored another touchdown to put themselves on top. Something that you usually do for us when you're kind of reviewing certain games is the drive chart. So going through the game in terms of possession and score, it is one possession all the way until the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left when the Bears take a 13-point lead on a DJ Moore touchdown on a run. So it was a shootout up until then, but 14-point lead, 5 minutes. Okay, we're probably good. No, under 2 minutes, the Bengals score. Then they get the ball back and score again to take the lead with under a minute to go. And then it seems like the Bears just blew another game, which is something that has happened to them a couple of times in the kind of short Caleb Williams era. But he hits this crazy 58-yard touchdown pass to Colston Loveland, in which he catches it in the middle of the field. I don't know if they had timeouts left at this time, off the top of my head, but he breaks a tackle from like two defenders and kind of sprints into the end zone, giving them that lead with under, like I said, 15 seconds left or whatever, 17 seconds is the exact time. Just a crazy, crazy sequence to end the game. I was watching up until that point, and then I was kind of like, oh, okay, the Bears they've kind of handled business here. Let's go ahead and turn it off. No, that was not the case, and Joe Flacco continues to do insane things on offense. This one not resulting in a win, but he's at least making it fun for us.
Um, yeah, I was texting with my family and I was like, man, we're gonna have the same record as the Bears. And then it was like, wait, never mind. And then it was like, oh, no, yeah, we're gonna have the same record as the Bears. Never mind. This game, yeah, just going back and forth, crazy. That Colston Loveland shed tackle when he caught the ball was electric. And you hope. I feel so bad for Joe Flacco. I feel like he's playing too well to be treated this way. And Jamar Chase was so angry after this game, talking to reporters, not pleased at how they've been unable to close games as a team. Um, I don't, if the Bengals can't beat the Jets and the Bears in games where they're putting up this many points, um, I'm sorry. I don't know if you've got it. And that's not even necessarily a dig at the Jets or the Bears.
I tell you what, their defense, we'll talk about it in the trade deadline, certainly didn't get better. So
Yeah, no, certainly not. But first, we've got a couple more pops and then three stops. So
I have a story
moving.
though for this
Oh,
a
that's right.
player in
I
this
meant to
game.
ask about this. Hit us.
Kyle Monungai, Bears seventh round draft pick, I believe, this year. You know where he went to school? There's no idea. You know where he went to school? Um,
You go to Houston
nope. It is a very red school in the Northeast. I think
in the
the oldest.
Northeast.
I think it's like the oldest CFB team.
I'm trying to think of red team. It's not like Rutgers, is it?
It is Rutgers. Um, nice pull.
Like
Kyle
it.
Monungai out of Rutgers University got the start in this game for the Bears. DeAndre Swift was absent, and he was awesome. He was like 25 carries, 175 yards, something like that. I don't have the numbers pulled up, but it was a great game for him. Very efficient, very good in this offense. I have a story about him that doesn't really matter. One, I picked him up and started him in our fantasy league. Check. Um,
Nice.
two, last year, college football 25, first college football game in over a decade came out, and I purchased it. And my favorite mode in those kind of games are dynasty modes. And my very first dynasty that I played was the Rutgers because they were the worst team in I think the Big Ten maybe or the ACC, whatever division they're in. They're like the lowest overall team in that division. And I was like, this is the team I'll choose. And Kyle Monungai is a senior. He's the best player of the team as a running back. I won him Heisman in my first dynasty because I
Wow.
just played every game and just ran the ball a ton. So that was just fun to see. The full circle college football to fantasy lineup to real life good performance.
Sounds in hindsight sounds kind of prescient considering that performance. Maybe he was a Heisman in disguise, right? No, that's pretty cool. I thought you were going to be like, oh, I met him. I was like, wow, that's crazy. But no, you just
No,
led him to
it's way
glory.
less cool than that.
You led him to glory. I think that matters. I bet he would be grateful if he knew you got him the Heisman. No, that's awesome. The game was awesome. A game that was less awesome to watch, but was nonetheless a shocking outcome, I would say. At Lambeau, the Packers lose to the Panthers 16-13. And I could tell you with certainty Brandon McManus missed a kick in this game, obviously 3-point margin. Um, the Packers had some nice plays in this game, but just couldn't hold it out. And tough one to watch. Slow, sluggish. Rico Dowdle's still a dog. I have to give Christian Watson credit. I was watching a video by the Savannah Bananas, the sort of like
Yeah.
Harlem Globetrotters of the MLB, and they were talking about their favorite One Piece themed celebrations that they do. And I watched Christian Watson hit one of those sellies after making a deep catch. So props to him for that. But Bryce Young converted multiple first downs with his legs. He looked decisive. He had one pick where I think he just floated the ball for too long, but otherwise kept him relatively error free, able to move him down the field with relative efficiency, and obviously just not enough for the Packers to kind of overcome their efficiency. And then some kind of mistakes from Jordan Love. They didn't look crisp. They looked handled by the Panthers, who were able to be a little disruptive as well.
And they looked ugly with those throwback uniforms they had on.
I
God, they're
have
terrible.
I have a take about this. By the way, like I just said, Bryce Young was in control of the game and he had a QBR of 47
Ball
and
of
a passer
nowhere.
rating of 48. While Jordan Love had a QBR of 66 and a rating of 80. But I mean, again, I think the magic is that Rico Dowdle's just a dog, and I think running this offense through Rico Dowdle, um, limiting kind of Bryce Young's need to be the defining force of this team. I think I was thinking the same thing about the Packers throwbacks. I thought these are ugly, and then they kind of grew on me, and I think there's a few reasons for this. Number one, I think part of what made them so ugly was they were up against the most 2000s looking ass team ever. Pardon my French. The Panthers are so like neon 1999. And then to put them
Hmm.
against the Navy of their 1920s throwbacks with the faux leather helmets, silly.
It's the faux leather. It's the helmet that's the worst part.
But consider this.
Okay.
I think the faux leather works really well, specifically with the Guardian cap. Romeo Dobbs, a couple
I
other
don't
players had.
I feel like I feel like I looked at Romeo Dobbs and I was like, God, you look silly.
I just feel like if it's leather, if it's meant to be fabric, and you have something that's a little softer and like more fabric-esque than just like printing it on the helmet, that gives it like a certain feel. And I think if both teams wore them, it would at the very least have a vibe to it. The fact that it was just one team, ruined it for me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I understand why you didn't like them because I don't think they were like great. I still think these were far better than what the Steelers were wearing against the Packers. Those were
Yeah,
to
those
me,
those uniforms are strange.
yeah.
Brother,
You know what we should do? After
what's
the
that?
season, all the alt jerseys, we can just do a tier list of all the jerseys after the season as opposed to what y'all
After
do
we
with the
watched
city
them.
jerseys on
Well, yeah,
Super Bowl
they
week.
just have so many. There's like they just pull them out randomly. I'm like,
Right.
what
I mean,
jersey
not
are you
every
wearing
alt
this week? Where
jersey
did this
maybe,
come
but
from?
yeah. I mean, hey, that's like a month of content. Is like we're doing the throwbacks today. We're doing
Yeah,
the
yeah.
alt colors and then whatever. Anyway,
That'll be good.
um Packers, you got to win a game against the Panthers who just got run off the field by the Bills. I'm sorry. Um
Yeah.
I don't think the
And
Panthers have
they're
been
missing arguably their best pass catcher, Tucker Kraft, tight end towards ACL, out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's a tough one for the Pack. A little bit like Detroit, if I'm being candid, a team that I think has the talent to pull away but hasn't, and that raises questions about the Packers for me. What does not raise questions is the game which unquestionably saved both my week in fantasy and your week in fantasy. Jaguars 30, Raiders 29 in overtime, coming down to a failed 2-point conversion attempt that I believe was knocked away, intended for, um, if not,
It
who was
was
it intended
it
for?
was sad. It's impossible, really. Like I, you can tell if you actually go look at the play, but it was at the line of scrimmage. It never had a
Yeah,
chance.
but we were saved by Brock Bowers. Tell of how Bowers saved you, and I shall tell of how he saved me.
Yeah, so going into this game, in the 3 p.m. slot, all of my opponent's players had played, I think, maybe except for one, or everybody had played. And then I had Brock Bowers and Travis Etienne, is also who I had in this game. Etienne had a fine game, like 15 points or something like that, like normal fantasy game. Um, Even going into like the third, maybe the fourth quarter of this game. I was down like 40 fantasy points. I had a
Yeah,
1% chance to win. And Brock Bowers, I believe, caught all three touchdowns that he scored in the fourth quarter and overtime. Obviously, with the yards and the reception points, too. Three touchdowns alone is 18 points. You add the yards and receptions. That jolted me all the way up to an 8-point victory when I was down 40 with one quarter of play left and basically hopeless in this fantasy matchup. He had like 42.3 fantasy points or something like that. The most a tight end has had since another Raiders tight end.
are you
You
quizzing me?
know, yeah, I'm quizzing
I'm
you.
think. Give me a second. Darren Waller.
Darren Waller back in like
Let's
2020
go.
had a humongous tight end performance as well. Um, so yeah, just totally saved me. And this is in my league that I'm not in with Jared. It's a separate league. So Jared, why don't you tell us in our league how he saved you?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now because I want to have the numbers in front of me. I was playing one of the unquestionably two best teams in our league right now. Um, and I was maybe like 60-30 or 70-30, maybe 60-40 going into the game, which for those of you who play fantasy know that typically the projections don't swing further than like a 58-42 unless you've got a lot of players on bye, which I did not. Um, and it was like, I wasn't in great shape. My opponent ended up putting up 119. Granted, seven of those came on Monday, but um, I put up 142 points, 43 of which came from Brock Bowers, which propelled me not only over my esteemed opponent, but also to the top spot in terms of points scored this week by a margin of like 15. And we are in a league where if you're in the top five in points, you also get a second win for that. So this was a two-win week for me after a couple rough weeks, propelled by Brock's brilliance, which I didn't even realize was happening until I checked it. Um, I was curious to see how the game was going right at the end of the game when I got to the function I was headed to, and I was like, "Oh, Brock Bowers, you have brought me more than salvation. You have brought me glory, and gotta love him for it." Don't
What a
love,
surprisingly awesome game it turned out to be.
yeah. I don't love this for the Jags though. I don't think that you should be losing to this Raiders team by one. Um,
It's a good thing they
in part
won.
because they opted not to tie in the year 2025. That's what I think.
They won. The Jaguars won. You said they
Um,
lost.
oh, I'm sorry. I meant that they won by one, but I think that this could have been a tie if the Raiders made a different choice. Obviously, at this point in their season, it's got to be a win or nothing. But yeah, if I'm the Jaguars, and I go for beating the Chiefs to barely escaping the Raiders, that's concerning to me.
Yeah. What else is concerning is that prior to the game, wide receiver slash cornerback, first round pick, number two overall, Travis Hunter was placed on IR due to a non-contact knee injury he suffered during practice. A scary thought. Those non-contact knee injuries
Mhm.
often could be ACL, MCL, that kind of thing. We haven't really got the details out because he has not played. But he was put on IR pretty swiftly, which is not a great sign because that usually means that they know it's going to be a long-term deal. Not sure when we're going to see him again this season.
I feel like I might have seen a comment that Liam Cohen made about expecting him back like near the end of the season if they're going to get him back. So this might be like an 8 week injury. Who knows? Tough for
Hmm.
them for sure. Especially, I mean, a player they invested so much of their future in. So I'm rooting for him to come back. Uh, the thing I might be celebrating most is not only do I get to wash out an awful memory of my Lions losing on a field goal while watching this game live with my dad in college the day I received my first Derek Barnes jersey here in the back, but also one of turns out the NFL's worst dudes gets to be summarily wiped from the history books. And why is that, Damon?
That is because after his legendary, what was it, 71-yard preseason kick, Cam Little came back and did it again, 68 yards in this game to set the new NFL record, longest kick in a regular season game. Nuts.
Yeah, super awesome to see. I think it's fun to watch records break in our lifetime as fans, especially when those records aren't being broken in a way that results in your team's defeat. That's kind of how I prefer those to come. So, yeah, and now Justin Tucker, we don't have to think about anymore, and that's awesome because he is a very, very bad person. Um, let's go to our stop games super fast. There were so
Yeah.
many trades this week. Um, first one, Ravens 28, Dolphins 6, Thursday Night Football spectacle for the ages. Not. Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson returned. He didn't look his sharpest, but he was sharp enough. The Dolphins kind of hung around at first. The Ravens then pulled away, and the Dolphins looked utterly inept by the end of that third quarter, before even heading into the fourth.
Yeah, I forgot to put this in the notes, but I'll say it right now. After the game, Dolphins fired their general manager, Chris Greer. So he is out, and they said Mike McDaniel will stay for the remainder of the season. I can no longer make the when will Mike McDaniel get fired joke, because apparently it won't happen.
Yeah, Chris Greer had a relationship with the team for a long time. I think Rich Eisen was talking about him being with them since 2000 as a scout. Um, so this is a big shakeup for them. Someone obviously who was really trusted, and um, regardless of whether he had to go or not, he was a black executive in the league. There aren't a ton of those, and so um, obviously, if he's not performing, which they weren't performing, he should be fired. But it's disappointing to see a potential role model in terms of creating a more diverse NFL lose their position there, and hopefully um, other executive positions are filled with people of color, and that diversity manifests itself elsewhere. But with the way
The
this Dolphins
Dolphins
team
don't
is
have
playing,
any
just not.
history with executives and people of color, right? Right, Brian Flores? Right, Brian Flores?
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, uh-oh. Yeah, not the best reputation for the Dolphins, and I don't necessarily think that any of that was in play here per se. But either way, just something that was on my mind. I read an article recently where Brad Holmes was talking about black executives, and so I was thinking about, Chris Greer was one of them, and that was on my mind when that happened. So a little sad there.
for
That's all.
sure. Yeah, another stop game here. Seahawks 38 at Commanders 14. Game that I thought was going to be pretty close. I think the NFL thought it was going to be pretty close. It was a primetime matchup. It was not that. Sam Darnold looked awesome for touchdown passes in the first half alone. And from there it was kind of game over. A couple of things worth noting. Commanders linebacker Frankie Louvu was suspended 1 game without pay for making his third hip drop tackle, at least noted, of the season. He was fined in both weeks 4 and 8 for that infraction, did it again in this game, and has been now suspended. And the big story coming out of this one was Commanders quarterback Jaden Daniels dislocating his elbow midway through the fourth quarter. He is now out indefinitely, likely to get placed on IR, likely to miss most of the season, if not the rest of it. It was one of those injuries, unfortunately, where the elbow was going the incorrect direction. Kind of an ugly image to see. And yeah, 38-14 final score midway through the fourth quarter. It sucks. He didn't have to be in the game at the time. Obviously, you don't want to call it quits too early, but if you have 5, 6 minutes left and you're down by 3 possessions, it's probably not looking too good, and maybe we should figure something else out. So, unfortunate for him, he's dealt with his fair share of injuries so far this year, and wish him nothing but the best and to come back strong.
Yeah, Daniels, I'm on Commander's Reddit right now because I was pretty certain he actually has not been placed on IR yet.
I
Which
did say that.
is, did you say? I'm sorry, I might have been looking for it and then
I
missed you
said
saying that
hasn't
part.
been placed on IR, but he's probably going to be out for a while.
Yeah, yeah. Compared to a couple other injuries here, Marshawn Lattimore feared to have torn an ACL out for the season, and Luke McCaffrey, their wide receiver, um, with a broken collarbone out for the season as well. And I liked Luke McCaffrey when I watched them play. He was kind of like a nice returner for them. He was like a solid, he's kind of number three guy that I feel like could have stayed around, right? With this version of the team. Some speculation the Commanders might trade away a few of their veteran pieces that they had acquired, Debo Samuel, Von Miller, but neither of them on the move as of the deadline. So this was a bummer for me also because, on the long list of teams I wanted to win this week, I mentioned I was going to a social function Sunday night. It was an event, a game night with my new coworkers and my boss, who is a Commanders fan. And I was excited to be kind of following this game with him and have something to talk about. And then it was almost immediately entirely out of hand, and there was no intrigue whatsoever for the remainder of the game. So that was a disappointment from a viewing perspective. I was kind of pulling for the Commanders in this one. So uh, last game, Cardinals at Cowboys. The Cardinals won this game 27-17. After a 5 game losing streak, the Cardinals seemed like they might not be plugged in, but Jakobi Brissett led them to a dub, and they got a little bit of a boost from both defensive lineman Walter Nolan, their first round pick this year, and cornerback Garrett Williams, who came off of the PUP list and IR list for this game. Jakobi Brissett, after this game, was announced as the starting quarterback moving forward after the game. Kyler Murray apparently given 4 to 8 weeks to recover from his foot injury. I would be surprised if Kyler Murray starts for the Cardinals again this season. in my opinion.
Yeah,
But
it seems like that's the direction they're going. The injury was just a, kind of a side storyline, but it seemed like Jonathan Ginn didn't want to comment after the game about it, and then he ended up commenting the next day or two, anyways. But yeah, Jacoby Brissett and this offense has looked great. I will say I had this game on. I watched a lot of it. A lot of Marvin Harrison Jr. right out of the gate. Just absolutely torching Deron Bland time and time again, who is the top Cowboys corner right now with Trayvon Diggs out with an injury. He had, I think it was literally 1 yard, a 1 yard touchdown catch in which Deron Bland literally fell over trying to guard him. It was humorous, to say the least, because the route he ran was so crisp. And yeah, he was targeted early and often and looked revitalized. So I'm glad that that has happened. Trey McBride looked fine. This game ended up costing me in our league, my fantasy matchup, because I had Jake Ferguson, Brandon Aubrey, and Bam Knight going into this game that needed like a combined 25 points. Didn't get it. So
yeah,
I fell like 2 points short or something like that, sadly, and that was unfortunate. But kind of a dud here from the Cowboys at home. They performed pretty admirably at home all season, despite their defensive woes, which they did address the trade deadline we're about to talk about. But the offense just wasn't there, despite all having all their weapons. There were a couple drops, a couple missed throws, just kind of not executing as they normally do. And the Cardinals, it should be noted that you mentioned already the defensive help. Will Johnson still looking pretty good as well. He's back for them, so Cardinals defense kind of showed up in this one.
yeah. Um, that's our last big game. We've been going for a while. Let's move into all the news in trades this week. Not all of these happened at the deadline. Many of them, however, happened yesterday or today. Some
I tried
massive,
to sorry, I was going to say I tried to organize them to flow from team to team. That was my goal.
I think oh, I'm actually seeing that. That's very cool. Um, I love that. Uh, we wanted to kind of do a bit of a segment here. I was thinking about how opinionated I am about some of these trades, and surely how opinionated you are about some of these trades. And I figured it'd be kind of fun if, for the ones that are worth giving an extended discussion, we kind of got to draft which trades we got to take a position on first, and then the other person has to make the opposite argument, right? So
Mm.
oh, this move is better for this team because, right? Some of these are mutual wins, and some of these are not worth having that discourse on. But there were some massive swings yesterday and today that I think are worth having the discourse on. So, would you like to go in order from the top of the list, and we can decide like, hey, do you have a strong take one way or the other? We can kind of do it that way.
Yeah, let's go in order, and then if we get to one that's like we really need to kind of address it in that big way that you just mentioned, we can decide it when we get there.
For sure. I actually do have something I want to add to this first trade, so I'll take this one
Sure.
here. The Tennessee Titans, I believe this was yesterday, Monday, traded defensive end Draymond Jones to the Ravens for a fifth round pick. I thought it was kind of classy when Draymond Jones tweeted. A lot of players tweet, it's been real, whatever. Like they'll kind of give their farewell to the city. And I wanted to read the first part of Draymond's. He addresses like, yeah, I'm ready to be a Raven, but he said, the NFL is too crazy, lol. Thank you, Titans family. I loved and appreciated my short time in Nashville too much. Cam is the truth too. Y'all give him time. He can be great. And just struck me that he went out of his way to call out Cam Ward as a future potential leader of this team. I feel like that was, especially as a defensive guy, um, unnecessary, but he recognized what Cam kind of meant to the hope for the fans, and also I think recognized real potential in Cam. So I just thought it was kind of cool to give him that shout out in the trade. I think if you're the Ravens and you're trying to stay competitive this season, a lot of defensive injuries. If you can add a guy at a relatively low cost who you think he can give you something on the edge, why not?
Yeah, and we saw what happened earlier this season when their defense went down with some injuries. So add a depth piece. Maybe he plays some amount of snaps per game. I think that's totally fine. And I do like the shout out because I imagine that, as being in the Titans stadium as a Titans player, you probably do see an unprecedented amount of Cam Ward hate because the Titans are struggling. Where it's not, Cam Ward hasn't been great for sure, but look at the rest of the team. What do you kind of expect to go on here?
Yeah, I like Cam Ward. I think Cam just has like that winner gene in him. You could just kind of tell he's kind of cut from a different cloth. So I just thought it was cool that he stepped out of his way to say that. Do you
For
want to take
sure.
this next trade?
I will take this next trade. Back in the preseason, I predicted the Ravens picking up these veterans kind of interesting. Well, one of those veterans is gone, and that is Jair Alexander getting traded with a seventh round pick in 2027 to the Philadelphia Eagles for a 2026 sixth round pick. A mouthful there. So they signed Jair kind of willy-nilly for nothing after the Packers released him. He's had kind of some tumultuous personality things going on. Seems like that happened a little bit here. He didn't play a ton. I guess the Ravens decided they didn't really have a big use for him. Might as well get a sixth round pick at the very least. And the Eagles, they had, Quinyon Mitchell, I believe, went down for a little bit with an injury and some of their other secondary guys. So this just adds some depth for a team that ended up making a lot of moves here at the deadline. Why not give up a sixth? And they have a ton of picks to play with. That kind of plays into the Eagles' trades. A lot of the compensatory picks that they got for some of their defensive free
Mm.
agents leaving this summer, they ended up kind of utilizing to ship for some win now moves.
Yeah, I think that's a smart observation. I hadn't considered that, but definitely if you've got those extra selections, right? And I feel like the Eagles historically aren't a team that does a ton of huge move ups in the draft that I can recall. Maybe they'll make some kind of spot moves here and there. But if you're not going to use the ammunition to move around the board, why not pick up some veterans who might give you something? I personally am of the opinion that Jair Alexander probably won't. I don't think the Eagles will want Jair Alexander to be playing meaningful snaps for them, like in a playoff scenario. But
Hmm.
as someone who can spot start or pick up some snaps if a guy goes down, he's at the very least experienced, and I think there's value in that, even if he's likely past his prime as a corner.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely not, someday I think it's going to be every stat player for them. But giving up that low of a cost, why not take a flyer and see if you can make something happen?
Yeah, much less of a flyer, much more of a swing for the Eagles. Came when they sent a 2026 third round pick to the Miami Dolphins for linebacker Jalen Phillips. This is an edge linebacker type guy. Reputation as a pass rusher, from what I understand, got an injury history to him, but there was a lot of talk about him being moved. A lot of, as a Lions fan, a lot of players were like, "Oh, we need another edge," right? A lot connected to that. And so it was no surprise to see him move. No surprise to see the Eagles put their hand in the cookie jar here. Do you have a take on this trade here? I unfortunately don't know a ton about Jalen Phillips as a player.
I
Third
gotta
round
say
pick
the
seems like a
Dolphins
sizable
are
investment, but
they're a miserable watch, so I try not to watch them. And
yeah.
I, especially on defense, but I have heard good things about the player. I will say, in all of the variations I have seen, the way the name Jalen is spelled, this might be the worst. So that's an observation worth noting, I think. But I
I
don't
think
know a
that's
lot
a
about
that's a fair point.
him.
I'm pulling up his stats right now just to get a little more insight. I
Sure.
feel like it would be even a little better if it was Jae. Well, I don't want to judge a man's name. I mean, he doesn't control that for sure. But yeah, I mean, in 2023 and 2024, he played 12 games combined. To his credit, in those 8 games in 2023, he racked up 6.5 sacks. Had at least, that was his lowest total in those first 3 years. He had 8.5 and 7 in 2021 and 22. I imagine the Eagles betting on their ecosystem creating more opportunities for him to get production off the edge. Um, they moved on. They kind of have to move on from a few defensive pieces every offseason. They previously traded Bryce Huff, who's kind of a free agency bust for them. So, um, kind of like when the Niners pick up a defensive lineman, there's part of you that says they probably know what to do with him. And yeah, maybe we could see him kind of explode along a defensive line that I think is unquestionably one of the 4 or 5 most talented, especially on the interior, with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. So,
And
yeah, we could
unretired
see.
Brandon Graham, don't you forget it.
That's yeah. I mean, I'm sure he'll command attention, right? Maybe he can do a little bit more of the disciplined work, and if Jalen's more a get after the passer type, but a third round pick's a sizable investment, so I wouldn't be shocked
Yeah, it
if
feels
they
high for a
extended
player
him,
I
right?
have never heard of. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I would have to imagine. I don't know what his contract details are, but I would imagine he's going to get an extension from them if they make that investment. But maybe this is true. The Eagles just recognizing, hey, we've got enough talent for us that we might not need that third rounder um, when the draft comes due. So
Yeah, another trade that the Eagles made, trading a wide receiver John Mechie III to the Jets for cornerback Michael Carter II. If I'm not mistaken, this is the second time that Mechie has been traded. I think he was traded from the Texans to the Eagles earlier this season. Hadn't played a snap. I think he's injured, but he's just flying around from team to team, and they get an additional secondary piece along with the aforementioned Jair Alexander to kind of solidify the depth there.
yeah, this just feels like a classic case of kind of wanting projects or depth at different positions. Jets have a banged up wide receiver room. Um, and the Eagles maybe wanted to see if they could get something out of Mechie when they traded for him. Previously sent Harrison Bryant to the Texans and a fifth in exchange for Mechie and a sixth. So a guy who was a high draft pick had been dealing with cancer when he came into the league, and
Mm.
so maybe this is a player that the Jets feel like at this point in their season they may as well take a swing on them. But unquestionably, there were two seismic trades by the Jets that, if you've been sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, when are they going to talk about the most interesting thing that happened at the trade deadline? Here we are. We're going to start with the less massive of the two massive trades. The first being here, the Jets sending defensive tackle Quinnen Williams to the Cowboys and receiving a 2027 first, 2026 second, and defensive tackle Mozzie Smith. Damon, do you want to take a side on this trade? Or
I I am kind of interested in playing the opposite of whatever it is you want to do. I could go both ways here, so if you feel passionately for either side, I'll gladly take the other.
I'll speak on behalf of the Cowboys on this one.
Sure.
I think that Quinnen Williams, I think defensive tackle is a position where, depending on a guy's skill level, they can stay meaningful contributors to your defensive line rotation well into their 30s. I don't think that's true of all positions. I don't think that's true of a lot of positions. I think similar to offensive linemen, um, in quarterbacks, defensive tackle is just kind of less reliant on strict explosion, right? In the way that like a wide receiver needs to be able to make cuts, running backs need their speed. But even if he matures from a pass rush run stuffing specialist into more of a run stopping guy later in his career, if you extend him, he could be an eight-year investment for your team, right? He's 27 right now, going to turn 28 um, before the season is up, and he's elite. I think he's probably one of the best 10 to 15 players at his position in the league, and a first and a second is a lot, but suddenly you are putting him next to Kenny Clark, and you have a really strong interior. And I think the league is in some ways moving towards having stronger interiors as part of an effective defensive front. So if you've got the resources to, yes, you trade away Michael Parsons, you get a lot back, and you turn some of that into another elite defender on the interior. Um, I just think this is a player that if you're giving up that much capital, you want them around for a long time. Yes, he's in his late 20s, but I think defensive tackles age well. And I like this investment for the Cowboys. Little rich, but good players are good players. 8 years of good play would make this a worthwhile trade to me.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the Cowboys play this season, God, they need something over there.
Well,
So
yeah.
I think that maybe that something was on your team already, and his name was Micah Parsons, but that's neither here nor there. One of these picks, by the way, the pick they traded, the first round pick, will be the better pick of the Cowboys and Packers.
Yeah.
So I did want to mention that. On the other side, the Jets side, hey, I'm the Jets. I'm the GM of the Jets, whatever that guy's name is. I was gonna, for some reason, when you pitched the segment to me, I thought it was gonna be like a phone call where we talk to each other. I don't know why I thought that. But anyways, here's my phone call that I have now prepared. Are you ready?
Please.
You already did your part, so I'll just do my half of the phone call. Hey, Jerry, Jets GM here. I don't know my name. Um, we're the worst team in the NFL by a long shot. We're awful. Josh Allen and the Bills look like they're going to be good for like at least another 10 years. Now Drake Maycombs and the Patriots are already 7-2. We have no chance. We have absolutely no chance. We barely have a win. They have a win, right? Yes, they got their first win. Um, we barely got our first win. I got to sell these guys while I can. I know you just acquired some assets for Micah, so if you want to send one of those my way, not both first round picks, but maybe one of them and a second, and we'll give you this guy to front your line. Kenny Clark hasn't been doing it for you, and the Micah trade, and you want somebody else. I got your guy. I'm just gonna need those assets because we need to start rebuilding. Even though we're terrible and have been terrible for 15 years, we need to reset again. So we will give you this very talented player, and you will give us a fairly sizable amount of assets. Thank you.
Hey, Darren Muji, it's me, Jerry Jones, and happy. I'm more than happy. I said on Monday Night Football that I had a trade lined up, and it's possible I didn't. So I'm just gonna make sure I get something done here. Don't care if I have to overpay. Don't know if you've heard of Mozzie Smith, but he's on our roster. He's young, he's cheap. You need young, you need cheap. I'll throw him in there as a little gift from Jerry J. Um, Go Cowboys. That's
Uh,
that's
Jerry, can you tell me what was up with Stephen A. Smith sitting next to you in the box and shaking your hand and walking out after that fumble turnover?
um to be quite honest with you, I was just so focused on the future of my team that I can't speak to what Mr. Stephen A was up to, but I think that I just like people who are loud and say things without a filter, and I think that's what drew us to each other.
That makes sense, Jerry. That makes sense. Pleasure doing business with you. Quinnen will be awesome for your team. The guy you mentioned, I've never heard of him, but it doesn't matter. He probably won't play. We're not going to win anyways. But those picks, we're really looking forward to this draft.
Yeah. Well, I gotta hang up. I gotta dot some I's and cross some T's on a deal with whoever the Bengals GM is. But good luck getting your second win up there, and we'll do our best getting our fourth.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, Jerry, this isn't the most talented player we're going to trade. So I got to go handle that
Okay, cool. I like that it's a phone call. I didn't realize you were
now.
doing a phone call, but I think that's kind of fun. Um, yeah.
Crazy.
Okay. I think that gives a strong point of view
Mhm.
on how we feel here. Yeah. Let's work into that next trade here. Damon, do you want to announce the biggest trade of the day by a country mile here?
The biggest trade of the day. The mighty Jets again, trading another defensive standout. Remember in the preseason when I was like, the Jets defense good enough to win games for them? They certainly aren't. Not anymore. They trade star-studded cornerback Sauce Gardner to the Indianapolis Colts, who are buying in on this for both their 2026 and 2027 first round picks. That's two, count them, two first round picks. That's a big deal. And wide receiver Adonai Mitchell, who had some unfortunate circumstances for the Colts this year and is pretty low on that depth chart. So I understand why he was included in this trade as well. Sauce, by the
Um,
way, already claimed number one from Josh Downs. Josh Downs changed his number.
I am sure Sauce had money to throw at Josh Downs to make that move. Worth noting also that A.D. Mitchell was a second round pick last year, so
Yeah.
a pretty highly touted prospect, though. Seemed he'd fallen out of favor with the Colts. Do you want to do this phone call?
I will do the phone call. Am I still the Jets GM, or do you wanna be the Jets GM this time?
Well, I want to share how I felt about the Colts making this move from the perspective of the Colts. So
Yeah,
I
please.
like the thought that you stay Darren, and I'll be Chris Ballard.
I'm okay. I'm ready.
Okay. Beep boop boop beep boop boop beep boop.
Mhm.
Hey, is
Hello,
this
hello.
this Darren? Is this Darren?
This is Darren. Who is this? Who am I talking to?
This is Chris Ballard. I don't know what I sound like, so now I just sound vaguely more assertive than a 25-year-old man's normal voice. Um,
I see. I see.
listen, I was going over the NFL YouTube page had put out some of the craziest trades of the last 10, 15 years. And I saw the Seahawks sent two first round picks for all pro safety Jamal Adams. Now, they didn't really talk about the fallout. I kind of paused the video right before they told us how it went. And I thought, man, that probably went really well for them. So I
Yeah.
figured I would call and offer two first round picks to you for your best defensive back now, who is Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, Jamal was a great safety in his time here. He had a great time in Seattle, so you don't need to watch the rest of that video. I'll tell you what, podcast listener, he did not have a good time in Seattle. He was quite mad. It was a very bad trade. Don't tell him. Chris, I have no idea who you are. What team are you general manager of?
Um, yeah. So if you look at the AFC standings, and you look at the side of it that you're not on, so the
Okay,
top, we are
rude.
we're the Colts, Indianapolis Colts here, and
Sure.
um, I there was this guy we drafted last year, A.D. Mitchell.
Mm,
He dropped a ball at the goal line, and
yeah,
it cost us a game earlier
a
this year. He's a
tragedy, a
talented
tragedy.
guy.
Would be eight and
Uh,
one.
yeah, could be 8-1, no doubt. And I was just thinking, he's got a lot of talent. And even if he drops a ball at the goal line for y'all, you likely wouldn't be in position to win a meaningful game regardless. So if you want to
Mm.
add him to make some kind of some kind of splash on top of those two first round picks, I'd be willing to throw him in there as well.
You make a good point, Chris. Second round pick. We were looking at him last year in the draft. We got Garrett. He's been out with injuries, but aside from that, boy howdy, I don't know if I could tell you another name of a receiver on this roster. So maybe a flyer like that could help us out. Actually, we have the remnants of Alan Lazard, thanks to Aaron Rodgers. But that's a nice buy. And you said two. I'm sorry, two first round picks. I just want to make sure I heard you right. You said two first round picks.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I saw the template for the Jamal Adams trade. And I know, Seattle won Super Bowls at some point in the last
The
20
Legion of
years. And
Boom, that defense was
Legion
really
of
he was
Boom, yeah.
surely a part of that.
Um, yeah, I'm trying to workshop like the Colts bolts
Mm,
of defensive lightning. I don't know. I'm kind of
sure.
leaving that to PR, but
I hear you, Chris.
um, just seems like a good shape for us. So
Yeah, Charveria's still out on IR for you guys with that crazy pregame warm-up concussion.
yeah, right now still looking like the best C ward in the division, but
Mm,
we could use
mm.
reinforcements. So um, I mean, what do you say? I mean, do you need more or?
You drive a tough sell, Chris. Two whole first round picks for a team in which we have only won one game this season and desperately need young talent to rebuild. We love Sauce here. We love drafting him. He's been a core part of our Jets identity, but so far that has not amounted to much. So I think I'll take you up on that offer, Chris. I think we'll take the flyer on AD. We appreciate two first round picks, and you enjoy that nice highly extended, highest paid in the league DB contract, don't you?
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna let you go. There's a video recommended to me here that I want to watch, so I'm just gonna put the phone down and check this one out here.
Yeah, so I would look up maybe Seahawks Patriots goal line, what you should do when it's second down, and get back to me on that.
Yep, yep. I'll keep that in mind. Okay. Click. Okay, this is what is this? Packers, Lions. Okay, this is like week 11 or 12, 2024. Interesting. Who's Adams at linebacker in this game? Click, 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 click. Oh no.
Hmm.
Um, Jamal Adams famously played linebacker for the Lions last year, and was signed to play linebacker for the Raiders this year, which is not safety. With all due respect to Jamal Adams, I don't think that move worked for them, and I don't think this move will work for the Colts the way they want it to. Corners are a notoriously fickle position. Two first round picks to invest in Sauce Gardner. He has to be a top five corner for the length of this contract. And AD Mitchell has to not be very good for this to be even, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think that's a very fair thing. And we talked about the Micah trade. It was a big haul for the Cowboys, going back for him to the Packers. And I feel similarly with this. I will say Sauce is still fairly young. I think he is a top three corner in the league, I would say right now is him and PS2 and even Stingley is probably right there. That kind of feels like a safe-ish top three for the next foreseeable future. There may be a guy or two I'm forgetting because it's just not coming to mind, but he's awesome, and I think playing on a team that is not horrible will be good. And I admire the Colts coming out. We had them winning like 3 and 4 games or something like that. They're already 7-2. They're believing in the Daniel Jones thing. They're trying to buy in on a defense that has been relatively good, even with the Charvarius injury so far this year. And they're like, we got a shot. Like they think we got a shot. Let's do it. I admire the bravery of it, the courage of it. I like the go all in. Are they a team that should have went all in? Is this, if it was the Bills doing this, would I feel a little differently? Probably. But I like the I don't know the right word. Um, the tenacity,
Chutzpah.
the chutzpah. That's a good one. Yeah, I like the like we're just gonna do it.
Yeah, it's audacious. Where I come down with this, by the way, the Lions won that game. So Jamal Adams, thank you for your service to the Lions.
Goaded.
I just corners, defensive backs, they are they are always like truly all pro all the time. And even if they are, the trade that came to mind that this reminded me of was the move the Browns made or the Jags made to go get Travis Hunter.
Hmm.
Granted, that was probably with higher first round picks than these. I imagine these will be lower firsts, but the idea that you're essentially giving up 2 first round picks to try to get one of the top 5 corners in the league, and then also like potentially a good wide receiver. Well, the Colts surrendered one of their wide receiver talents. Granted, they're pretty stocked there, but they also give up 2 first rounds, and now I think have no choice but to re-sign Daniel Jones. There is zero pivot here. You have no chance of taking a quarterback in 2026 or 27 unless you move a guy like Sauce and recoup first round picks from another team. So this is them saying Daniel Jones is it. And if Daniel Jones falls apart in the second half of the season, this is going to look like a regrettable choice for them really fast. Now, if Jones stays quality, they won't feel the punishment of this not working if it doesn't work. And if this gets the Colts to the Super Bowl this year, trade as many firsts as you want. But I think that 2 firsts for a corner, for a team with no extra first rounders, a team that didn't move other players to recoup some draft capital, it's a gamble. It is a big gamble. So I see both sides. I think the Jets got a steal. I think 2 firsts is a lot of capital for anybody that isn't a quarterback or maybe a top 3 edge rusher in the league.
Yeah, it's definitely a big deal, and we'll see kind of how it pans out for them. But that's not all the trades they made. They made one more trade.
Yeah.
Very minor in comparison, a 2028 seventh round pick out the door for the Jets to the Chargers for a defensive back, Jasur Taylor. What a cool name.
Yes, I don't think we'll be hopping on the phone for this particular swap, but that is a great name and feels consistent with the Jets taking on Mozzie Smith, A.D. Mitchell. Just get in some young guys that you like that might not fit in their current rooms, but you think have potential. Um, I like this mindset from the Jets. They need picks, they need guys, they need a future, and Quinnen Williams and Sauce were great, but you probably don't have enough resources without making a huge swing like this to rebuild that roster. If we continue the Aaron Glenn to Dan Campbell comparison, part of what made Dan Campbell so successful in rebuilding the team was all of the firsts that they received in the Stafford trade alongside Goff. Goff hit as a quarterback. Now you have a ton of extra resources you can dedicate to filling out the other parts of your roster. Jets in a similar position, though they may need to move some of these picks to make quarterback happen for them. But hey, yeah, take a swing. If that seventh round pick in 2028 turns into a guy in your rotation, pick well spent.
Yeah. Well, we will see. And the Chargers made another trade, Jared. What other trade did they make?
Yeah, I'm an expert on this one because I
Right?
just watched them play and definitely was paying a lot of attention to the guard play. Chargers trade a 2027 sixth round pick to the Saints for offensive lineman Trevor Penning. If I'm not mistaken, he may have tackle experience. He was playing left guard in the game that I watched for the Saints. And when the Saints line was being crashed, it looked like it was more the right side getting beat up than the left. So um, I can't speak a ton to the quality of his play, but they needed bodies. And sixth round pick in 2 years is not a huge investment to try to save a season that looked really promising before the offensive line turned to dust.
Yeah, for sure. Go grab a guy on a team that is not really doing anything for very low cost. And yeah, Joe Alt being out definitely makes sense to me. Not the biggest trade the Saints made though.
Yes. What was this next move they made here? Something speculated about.
Yeah, they traded wide receiver Rashid Shaheed to the Seattle Seahawks for a 2026 fourth and fifth round pick. Interesting.
Um, I kind of want to do the phone call for this one because I just have a
Uh,
stupid bit. Can I be the Saints?
Yeah, of course you can be the Saints. I'll
Um,
gladly be the Seahawks.
okay. Um, this is so stupid. And I'm so sorry to the Saints GM. Oh boy, John Schneider, it's me, Mickey Loomis. I'd love to, I'd love to ship out Rashid Shaheed. He's a talented guy, but I don't think we're going anywhere this season.
Yeah, that guy's pretty fast, right? That guy like runs fast.
Yeah, he's a real speedy fella, and we already sent out a fourth round pick for Devon Vele. We need all the capital we can get.
I hear you, Mickey. I hear you loud and clear. How does fourth? You said a fourth. I'll throw a fourth. And just because you initiated this and were so polite, how about a fifth as well? I'll give you a fourth and a fifth for him.
Nothing goofy about that. Mickey's a happy guy.
Great. I'm so glad that we had this phone call. Don't ever call unless you're going to talk about business only. Thank you. Have a good rest of your trade deadline.
Sure will. Okay, Mickey's now gonna make a second call.
Okay.
Hey, honey, just made a trade. Why, why did I allow myself to do the Mickey voice in my first trade call as GM all those years ago? What was I? They all think I sound that way, and I realized I couldn't take it back, and they won't talk to me because I sound like a joke. And I love sports. I love the NBA. I love the NFL. I want to have, you know, anything I can do to help the Pelicans, help the Saints. But sorry, it was just weighing on me today. I gotta go. I gotta see if I can turn this fifth round pick into some Disney magic. God. Okay. Bye. Uh, um, I had my eyes on that for like 25 minutes, by the way.
Yeah, of
I wanted to do
course.
that for way too long, for what it was. But thank you, and I hope that did not shred people's headphones. Um,
Yeah, it adds an element like I was alluding to in the call of kind of that verticality, that downfield threat. Because I think JSN is such a polished route runner. Cooper Cup's been out with health injuries, and then Torrey Horton kind of sort of fills that role for them right now, but not a regular guy. So the Seattle, offense has been so explosive that I think this can help.
my only worry about this trade, I liked Shaheed. I liked what I saw from him in the Saints game. Obviously, they weren't moving a ton on offense, but he was a real contributor. Um, Amari Cooper for the Browns, and to a much lesser extent, Donovan Peoples-Jones for the Browns, going to the Bills and Lions respectively, and then turning into dust. I think sometimes wide receiver stats and wide receiver production could be a product of the options around them and the relative dearth of talented players. I don't think that's necessarily the case for Shaheed. I think he does have legitimate route running. You're right. He's shifty. He's quick. He's fast. And I think the Seahawks will take advantage of that. But if this trade goes wrong, that will just store in my brain, hey, when we're trading wide receiver off of a not so great team, how much of their production is a product of their environment versus their talent. But hey, as a fantasy owner of Rashid Shaheed, excited to see what he can do for the Seahawks.
Yeah, and I am excited as a fantasy owner in my other league of Jakobi Meyers, who the Raiders traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars, just played in that overtime game for a fourth and sixth round pick. Um, here I have the phone call. Okay, this is I'll be Raiders, you be Jaguars, and this is as the game is concluding. Okay.
Okay, okay, yeah.
Hello.
Hey, this is James Gladstone. You just caught me in the middle of dreaming. What can I do for you?
Hey, James, hey, great to grab you. I wanted to get you before we all got out of here. Congratulations on the win, by the way. Hey, you guys think you could just take Jacoby back on your team playing with you? He does not want to be here anymore.
There's always room for players who envision a brighter future for themselves on the Jaguars. What were you thinking you'd want from us for Jacoby?
Oh, that's a great question. He's a talented guy. I know you guys have kind of accumulated these picks recently over the last several years. You got 11 picks or something in the next couple of drafts. Um, I don't know. He's a wide receiver one kind of talent. I know Travis is out. Maybe like a fourth, a fifth. What do you think?
Um, you reminded me of one of my favorite songs, Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen. I won't sing it now, but I think about a fifth round pick and I think about a boy just on the edge of becoming a man, of changing the course of his own life, all of his hard work being achieved, and it's so hard for me to part from that vision. I'd be willing to do a fourth and a sixth, though.
I already hung up.
No?
You were talking too long. I put the phone down. But the trade happened.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Um, Shout out to Heat the Call. They do a great Gladstone bit
Yeah, yeah.
where he's
Yeah, it's
always
kind of
like
nutty.
envisioning. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. Yeah. Jacoby wanted to leave. And I guess this is kind of a short-term replacement for Travis Hunter and maybe some of the production that's fallen off for Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, he's good when he gets the opportunity. It's just tough to come by in Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, Brock is a receptions magnet for a weak passing attack. And he's probably just sick of being on a team that has been kind of uncompetitive for his entire time there. So,
Yeah.
Jaguars at least maybe put him in a spot where he can get to the wild card and sniff the playoffs. Few more swaps. Next up, the Cowboys. We alluded to them making another move. They sent a sixth round pick to the Cincinnati Bengals for linebacker Logan Wilson. Um,
He requested a
is
trade a couple weeks ago.
He did. From what I understand, kind of a captain, former, a captain who was falling out of favor with the team. Writing was on the wall, and he was like, "Hey, I want to go seek other opportunities." And so, um, I like this for the Cowboys personally. Someone who's a defensive captain, right? I don't know if you're going to have him put on the green dot right away, but anytime you have someone who's got experience with a high leverage communicating position on defense, that'll probably help tighten up some of their defensive play calls. If any of the misfunction, excuse me, if any of the dysfunction is coming from players missing assignments, this might be a way to get around some of that. But remains to be seen. Definitely strengthen the spine of their defense at D tackle and linebacker both.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what this Cowboys unit is going to look like over the next couple of weeks with these kind of new additions they have, because it was not looking good, and now I think it has the potential to not be the worst defense in the NFL.
Yeah. If anything can turn this, the Cowboys are doing everything they can to turn this season around. Don't have faith they'll necessarily make it all the way to the playoffs, but you can't fault them You can't say they didn't try, that's for sure.
Yeah. And Bengals defensive end McKinley Jackson requested a trade. This was just this past weekend before their game. He said, "Please trade or release me." Was not traded today on the trade deadline. Hasn't been released yet, so he is sticking around for now. Everyone wants
Um,
out.
yeah,
Please get me out of Al Golden's scheme. I can't do it anymore.
yeah, I feel a little bad for there's probably like those two or three defenders who know they're doing their job, right? But they can't come out and be like, I'm doing my job on this defense. And interesting Logan Wilson was losing snaps. I don't know quite what the cause of that was, but um yeah, I guess McKinley Jackson's just stuck. I don't know his contract details, but um last trade here. Um the Browns, speaking of being a little trapped, maybe in situation, unfortunately, the Browns often near the bottom of the league as the Bengals find themselves. They sent defensive end Joe Tryon Shoyinka and a seventh round pick to the Bears for a sixth round pick. So, alongside CJ Gardner-Johnson, some more defensive reinforcements for a Bears team that finds itself um, in a pretty competitive spot, both in the NFC North and NFC at large, maybe relative to preseason expectations.
Yeah, honestly, 5-3 going into the point. Why not? Six round pick is kind of whatever. So might as well pick up that depth piece and keep churning along.
And I want to say Shoyinka was a previous first, maybe high second rounder for Kansas City, if I'm not speaking
I
off.
certainly had no clue.
He was a first rounder for Tampa in 2021. So,
Big, big,
um,
big.
yeah, why not take that swing? Why not add some depth, and hope you can get more out of it? With that, we have covered the trade deadline. Definitely one of the more exciting in
Whew.
recent memory, and we animated it with our
Second most trades on the deadline day, I believe. Eight, tied with the 2021 or something like that, and then a couple years before there was 10. So big
wow.
day.
Yeah, and definitely a couple explosively large trades, right?
Hmm.
Number of trades can be misleading, but I would argue that like if I had to really look at this list and say, okay, which of these trades really like for me tip the needle, it's Jalen Phillips, the two big Jets trades, Shaheed, Myers, and I would even say like maybe Trevor Penning move. Like there were a lot of deals that made an
Right.
impact. Logan Wilson, right? Not to say the other players aren't impactful, but that their relationship to the goals of the team might not be as central as some of the other trades that we kind of just mentioned there. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And we're doing so well in terms of pace relative to expectation. I say we just roll straight into the wheel for week 10. What do you say?
Yes, I do say that. I also say the Sauce phone call in particular, it's going to be a great YouTube short, I'll tell you what.
Ooh, can't wait. Cannot wait. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of, if any Seahawks fans come across that, I might get some heat, but so be it.
Here, let
Let's
me go ahead and share my little screen.
I'm now realizing that the Mickey Loomis phone call might be a short, and I may request we just skip that one. But
That, yeah, I'm not exactly sure if that will happen. For week 10, worth mentioning here, bye weeks, Bengals, Cowboys, Chiefs, Titans. Those are the four teams we're going to be missing out on this week. Our wheel currently only has 12 teams on as we approach, the twilight of the season. I think we're missing a team or two at the bye weeks here, but let's go ahead and spin. It's going to be me first this time as we alternate every week.
Mhm.
Boom. Who's the worst team on the docket? That's who I'll get.
Well, you just skipped past Cleveland.
Well, sure enough, I
Oh, there you
sure,
go.
sure.
There you
And
go.
in typical Damon fashion, I get a horrible team. I got the Chiefs last week. Horrible for reasons that are not their talent. But the Dolphins, they play, guess who? The Bills, who I've watched a lot of this season. I just watched the Chiefs play them.
Oh,
I watched another team play them that's slipping my mind right now, but I've seen a lot of Bills. So ultimately, I'm okay with what will ultimately be an absolute thrashing, I imagine.
um, I will say, early in the season, Bills Dolphins was more competitive than we expected. I think that lightning won't strike twice, but you might get a sneaky good game.
Yeah, we'll see. In the noon slot as well, so going to be missing out on a couple of matchups that I think could be a little more exciting. Oh well. That I believe covers the AFC East too. I think we are now going to be finished with that division.
Yeah, that sounds right because I made the swap there with the Jets. I did the Bills a couple weeks ago, and then you did.
I did the Patriots a long time ago.
Yep. Okay. Perfect.
All right, first division out of the way entirely.
Is it NFC North? I thought we finished. Did we not?
We did not. We have not gotten the
Oh,
Vikings.
Minnesota. Oh boy, I'm inviting it, aren't I?
Uh, yeah, you get to the NFC North watch basically.
I have to watch the team that has slain my precious Lions in the last few days. Is that
Oh,
the
here we go.
Niners? Okay.
This
I feel like my luck is that I think I'm excited about the team, and then they're playing an
no,
underwhelming
this is a
thud.
good game. They are playing the Rams, your team from last week.
Oh, there's some sizzle on that steak. Let's go. Um, okay. Yeah, no doubt. And this is 3:25, so I will be watching it not in real time because Lions Commanders will be on. So I will return to this matchup after it concludes, most likely Monday or Tuesday. It's just kind of how it rolls if it runs with the Lions. But first, I want to hear your sell. Tell me why Bills Dolphins matters.
Bills Dolphins matters mostly because the Bills need to take care of business to keep in line with this Patriots team that is 7-2 and currently leading the division with a win over the Bills. So they cannot afford to slip up right now if they want a top seed in the AFC or a chance at a top seed in the AFC. And while I don't think the Dolphins inspire a tough challenge, you just got to make sure you don't, sleepwalk into this game and accidentally come out with the loss.
Yeah, I mean it's played in Miami, so that's it's a subtle wrinkle there. Rams heading to the Niners. Niners upset this Rams team a few weeks back, in one of the more surprising outcomes, I think. And I imagine the Rams will be motivated to take this one back from the Niners. Yes, it's a road game for the Rams, but when you're in state, I don't know how much that's going to really impact their preparedness. Anything can happen, and I'm eager to evaluate the Niners for myself and recognize what is keeping this team together, to get a better understanding of how the rest of their season could go, just because they've truly been one of the surprising outcomes um, considering just how injured they are. So guess we'll see. Can they hang on without Michael Williams? Just another lost player last season, but they endure.
Yeah, and then the Rams will, I think, make a pretty tough opponent for them as they have been quite good this season.
No doubt. With that, uh, I think do you get first pick here for matchups you want to cover here?
Yeah, let me take a look at the week here and see if there's any matchups I think are worth noting. I will start here with this. Another noon game. I'm just kind of going in chronological order. Patriots at Buccaneers. Buccaneers coming off of
Mm.
their bye week, I believe, and looking like a pretty good team so far this season. But we just talked about it. The Patriots are 7-2, leading, tied for the number one seed in the AFC, and leading the Bills in that division race. So two teams that have, I think, overperformed in a way. Even though I think we did both expect the Buccaneers to come out on top of their division. I think the way they've done it so far this year is maybe even better than I expected going into the season. So, seeing kind of, who can kind of maintain the momentum that both of the teams have had so far, I think will be a fun matchup.
This feels like one that neither team needs per se. But I think for both of these teams, the Panthers sneaky hanging around in the NFC South, and obviously Buffalo, a true threat in the AFC East to take the crown back for the Patriots. Um, every win matters. Even if a loss for either of these teams wouldn't necessarily, I don't think either team would have to feel bad about losing to the other, I guess. So yeah, I think that's the sign of a good matchup.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. What do you got for me?
I will. I'll take the game right next to that one. Ravens, Vikings, battle of the purple squads here. I I think that the Ravens have been kind of on the come up, right? We saw Lamar return against the Dolphins, and Tyler Huntley's able to pull him out of the Bears, and the Vikings with JJ's return pull off a surprise win against the Lions. I think that matters for them reviving their season potentially. They looked a little lost with Carson Wentz, excuse me, at quarterback, and so kind of just interested to see which of these two teams ends up uh, continuing its march towards remaining relevance. Obviously, the Ravens in a deeper hole in terms of the loss column here than the Vikings, but um, this is sort of like it's interesting. These are two teams that are kind of trying to bring their season back into focus here. So a motivated matchup for both. Can the Vikings defense stymie a Ravens offense that has been far from immortal this season? Can JJ take advantage of weaknesses in the Ravens defense, or can their addition of Draymond Jones propel them over the Vikings? TBD.
Yeah, I think the Ravens are a lot healthier as well. On both sides of the ball, they've gotten a lot of their defensive stars back. Lamar is, of course, back. So I kind of expect him to take care of business, but I also expect the Lions to take care of business. So we will see against this Viking squad. Also worth mentioning, with your 49ers spin, we are also going to complete the NFC West. So we'll be completing two divisions this week. And we
Yes.
still have yet to spin a team from the AFC North.
That's kind of exciting, honestly. Near the end of the season, you'll probably get some divisional matchups
Hmm.
between teams, so that could be kind of fun. Um,
I'll take the next one here, huh?
mhm.
Next game on the docket that I think could be exciting, Giants at Bears, another noon game.
Oh, okay.
Giants did just lose to the 49ers, but I think they've had enough games this season that if they looked like a really competent team to convince me that they are a relatively real roster, whereas I think that the Bears are kind of the opposite, where they're 5-3, but some of their games have been such like a disaster in the way that they win or lose that I'm not convinced they're going to be a great team down the stretch. So I feel like this will be kind of a good either a momentum carrier for the Bears, and if they get a win at home and continue kind of along in that stride, or the Giants kind of get a get right game after losing to a pretty banged up 49ers team.
Yeah. I mean, two young quarterbacks worth keeping an eye on, um, regardless of winner or loser here. Um, and if Dart continues to play well, I don't think the Bears have proven they can pull away from teams quite yet. Um, Interesting matchup in that respect for sure. I'll take another one here. I'm actually going to take the very next one here. This is a division matchup. Jags, Texans. I think this game matters because behind the Colts in the AFC South are these two teams, Jags at 5-3, Texans at 3-5. But to me, it still feels like both of them have roughly the same amount of credibility in terms of the Jaguars looking good and then having some total bottom out games. The Texans looking miserable and then having a few competitive games. Obviously, staying in the fight with the Broncos, even with Davis Mills, I think is impressive in and of itself. Uh, the thing is, there are one, two, three, four, five, six, seven other teams in
Hate
the
you.
AFC with five or more wins besides the Jaguars. And so, like, I think we're at the point now where teams with six losses seriously have very little chance to make the playoffs, right? And I know that kind of sounds obvious that, like, yeah, of course, if you have six losses and then you go 10-7, that's kind of a wild card team, depending on the conference you're in, depending on those situations. And the AFC, I think that's starting to change. I think we're getting teams that, especially, one of the other teams that doesn't have five wins is the Ravens, right? If the Ravens with five losses suddenly start rattling off wins in a row, the Texans are in even more of a precarious place. I think the Jaguars with a win going up to 6-3. Um, if the Colts lose, they're one win behind the Colts suddenly, and the Texans are, um, you know, dragging behind. I just feel like this game's going to tell us which of these teams to think about going forward. If the Texans lose, I think they're out of contention. The Jaguars lose, I think we're seeing them drop some of the steam, especially if it's against Davis Mills.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a good point by you. And I think Jags had a good start to their season, mostly based on a relatively easy schedule. And they kind of went through the ringer the last couple of weeks. And here's a test, I think, at the start of the season, we would have said the Texans will easily take care of business. But so far, that has not been the story, especially if it is the Davis Mills-led Texans. But that defense is still scary. Um, this is the last one I'll take for me. The last prime time, the last game of the week, Eagles at Packers Monday Night Football. Why? Because the Eagles are clearly leading the NFC East. They are, I think, also coming off of their bye. I don't remember them playing this week. How do they look different in any sort of way, in any meaningful way that matters? But more importantly, the Packers, after a loss to the Carolina Panthers, can they bounce back at home to keep the number one NFC North spot? Or do they lose this game and the Lions or Bears win their game, kind of moving up that division race? So it'll be an interesting storyline going into Monday night, especially if, like I said, the Lions or Bears have won their game. So they have to win to hold on to that top spot.
Awesome Monday Night Football game.
Hmm.
Really great. On paper. Hopefully it comes through. I'll take one more here, super fast. Steelers, Chargers. Again, two teams that are, Steelers lead their division. Just got a win against the Colts. Chargers looked really good to start the season, but the injuries on that offensive line are really shaking the faith right now. That said, you and I are both not convinced about the Steelers.
Hmm.
So I could easily see this being a letdown game for Pittsburgh. Um, and a game that I think, even though the Steelers lead the division, both teams need. So just kind of hungry. I like matchups where the two teams feel relatively even narratively, positionally in the standings, or both. Steelers Chargers kind of gives me scratches that itch for me. So
For
I'll
sure.
call that one out. And yeah, do you want to get into some super quick one line
Uh,
hitters on these
uh,
other games?
uh, uh, yes, I would love to. Thank you. Do you have a particular game you're gunning for to determine the order of first or second?
I'm willing to cede creative control here. I think there's a lot of good matchups in all directions to riff
Yeah,
on.
I feel like I have a relatively good one for both of the first two. I'll take the first one though. Um, Despite being 7-2, tied for the number one seed, the Raiders struggling mightily so far, despite their positives in Brock Bowers, Ashton Jinty, and those guys. The Broncos manage a measly 7-point win against a team they seem much better than because they just can't seem to convincingly beat anyone.
Very nice. It kind of feels like, especially Thursday night. It's got something strange written all over it. Um, Falcons at Colts in Germany, I believe. The Falcons are torn. They've slain division winners before, but not when those division winners are upstarts. Will this be the Bills game or the Patriots game or something altogether different?
Mine for this would be I woke up in the afternoon and Daniel Jones is back in the MVP race. Wow. Um,
That sounds right. Yeah.
crazy. Browns, Jets. Has there ever been a game that the final score was 2-0?
Scorigami. Okay. I've got one percolating for this one. I'm gonna see if I can land the ship.
Panthers
Um,
lover, so
yeah.
coming big here.
Saints Panthers. On one side of this matchup, a quarterback named Young. On the other side, a rookie older than Trevor Lawrence. In this battle of potential future signal callers, I think that victory will side with the Young.
Wow, that was very eloquently said by
Oh,
yourself.
thank you. Thank
Very
you. Thank
good,
you.
sir. And then we Sorry, go ahead.
Just Shuck is older than Trevor Lawrence was an
Yes.
insane stat.
Yes.
Um, my mind was blown. And they were talking about on the broadcast, he threw his first touchdown pass to Jawan Jennings.
Yeah.
Um, and he was teammates with Jawan Jennings in college. And if I'm not
Jawan
mistaken, Jawan
Jennings?
Jennings
Johnson.
or Jawan Johnson, I'm so sorry,
Tight
Jawan
end.
Johnson.
Yeah.
Jawan Johnson uh, was signed as an undrafted free agent by the Saints apparently in 2020. And again, Tyler Shuck is a rookie this year, and they were college teammates. So
2025, by the way, in case you don't know.
2025. So 5 year difference.
Yeah, crazy.
Quite the statistic. Sorry to derail our segment. I just
No, you're so fine. Skipping along a couple games, we already talked about a bunch of these, so we're going now to Cardinals at Seahawks. Can the mighty Jacoby Brissett upset a team that has looked stellar after beating the Cowboys in the previous week? Say,
I think the Jacoby narrative is compelling. This is our
you know
last one,
the
actually.
NFL backup commercials.
Yeah.
I think is on those or used to be on those, and he has been like a backup basically from as long as I can remember. I remember him when he was the third string on the Patriots behind Jimmy Garoppolo and Tom Brady era. He's been a lot of places. I have some respect for that guy.
If I'm not mistaken, he was the one helping the family with their taxes as backup. All right.
I
I've
don't
got
know
the
about that,
last
but that's
game we
huge.
haven't covered yet. Um, I'm just trying to remember which I actually do like those backup commercials, by the way, now that you brought them up. I think they're a fun idea.
Hmm. They keep expanding. I feel like it was like three guys, and now it's like 15 guys, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're like really getting people in on this.
Yeah. They've got Teddy B as the backup listener and Tommy
Listener,
DeVito as
yeah,
the backup child in the
yep.
photo. Which I that one really tickles me because like of course, you know.
Until I see
Oh,
it
let
for
me
like
explain the
the
joke
eighth
real quick.
time, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I know the beats here. I sometimes wish that they were, like they're kind of 15-second spots typically. I want to
Hmm.
see like the 30-second extended cut of
Mm,
Bridgewater really listening. Uh,
hmm.
okay, last game. Speaking of Teddy Bridgewater, Lions Commanders, a game in which Teddy Bridgewater played last season, the game that eliminated the Lions in the playoffs. I want to be bitter. I want to seek revenge, but now that I know a Commanders fan, there's that voice in my heart that says I shouldn't be mean. Lions 80, Commanders 2.
Uh, yeah, I like that. I'll go with Mariota gets marred. That's what I'll say.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, that game caused a lot of distress in house and home. So,
For sure.
um yeah, that was a tough game. So, uh fun fact, I went on a Grand Canyon trip this summer as I may or may not have mentioned on the pod. We did like an ugly t-shirt swap and someone got me a Commanders t-shirt. So, yeah,
Earned it. I
I
see.
think about
Yeah.
that a lot. Uh, it might be in this room. I Yeah. Anyway, I've got my football
Of
to make
course.
my field goal kick
What
to
a great
end
show today.
our
What a
show.
great show.
Thank you so much for listening. Yeah, this was a blast. I was not expecting this to veer into impressions, but it was a joy and so fitting that we're back with the field. I'm actually putting the ball on my knee to simulate the 68-yard distance of Cam Little here. So this is a long range
Ah,
strike.
that's yeah, you better have the power behind this one.
Yeah. Loading up that rocket leg. Here we go. Kick is up.
Oh, wow, soaring in the sky, high arcing kick. The wind is pushing it just a little bit. What's that? It dinks off the bottom of the crossbar and through. It's good.